I have some important news for you.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Brought to you by J. Michael, fashion for everyone. Good morning, Sandy.
Hey, good morning, guys. How you doing?
We are good. How are you?
Fantastic. Happy Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Spill some tea. What you got?
Yes. All right. So we have our second confirmed case of locally transmitted dengue fever. I shouldn't say confirmed because we're breaking it to you. So no one's actually confirmed it yet, but we know. The person lives in West Bay. So again, folks, given the rain that we've had, you've got to be very, very vigilant about standing water. Clear those areas as quickly as possible. And, just be on the lookout. We've had an interview with the chief medical officer talking about some of the symptoms that you should be looking for. And if you suspect that you may have come in contact with a mosquito and you might be positive for dengue fever, you might think something, please go and have yourself tested. There's a test apparently.
What are some of the symptoms?
Feverish. I mean, they mimic a lot of other things, to be honest. So I think if you present yourself at the hospital with, sort of flu-like symptoms, but you've also got mosquito bites, they may actually, but eye pain, muscle pain, bone pain, joint pain, having a rash, you might have nausea, vomiting, headache, and fever. So some of the symptoms can be a little bit more serious as well. So, yeah.
All right.
So
yeah, it does sound like a lot of other things.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So COVID-19 policy has been discontinued for civil servants. Can you believe it's just being discontinued? But anyway, yes. So the civil servants had a policy in place regarding COVID-19. And so it expired on yesterday, and the government, the public service division has decided to discontinue that entirely. So okay. I think it's just a sign of, where we're at. We're just kind of living with it as best as we can. So no more rules about isolation and LFT testing and so on. But there will be booster shots available coming up in the fall. So if someone requires a booster shot, keep an eye out for details on when that is going to be released. The HSA's accident and emergency entrance is going to temporarily relocate. They've been doing some renovations and some moving around of different things. So over the next couple of days, they are actually moving from yesterday, 7 a.m. until Monday, October the 2nd. They're moving to facilitate renovations to the ambulance bay. And so now the anyone requiring emergency care should go to the hospital's main atrium entrance, and signage there will direct you on where to go from there. So just as an FYI, because I know a lot of people are, keen to kind of go on the side of the building when they have an emergency. So just go now to the front, and security is always there. Big shout out to Matt Brown. He's putting on a new comedy show at the Hartwell Theater. CNCF is proudly behind this, and it's called What Happening? And it's said to be, comedic, focusing on all areas of modern life. And apparently CMR might have a little bit of something in there as well. So we're going to go check it out. So yeah.
You are part of the fabric of Cayman, and I'm sure there's probably some sort of sketch in there about you.
Yeah.
If I know Matt Brown, he's a funny guy.
Yes. All right. So those are some of your news headlines this beautiful Thursday morning.
Thank you, Sandy. We'll see you tomorrow for the Friday headlines. We'll put your show.
All right, folks. Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? We're going to get moving here in just a second. We got 2 minutes left. So sit back and enjoy our national song. Someone sent me another rendition of this. Thank you so much. I will cue that up the next time as well.
bigger,
better,
bolder.
The cold, hard truth is taking talk to the next level. Right here on Bobo 89.1 FM, Cayman's Community Radio.
We are still spilling the tea.
And committed to being part of the change that Cayman so desperately needs. Join Sandy Hill weekdays from 7:30 a.m. for Premier Access, Cayman Voices, Truthful Thursdays, and much more. Cayman's #1 talk show is now bigger, better, bolder, and more than talk. Getting results with hot topics, consumer reports, court exposés, and more.
I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold, hard truth.
Now, from the CMR studio in Grand Cayman,
Live, direct.
it's the cold, hard truth. Now, join the conversation on 345-936-2626.
That number again is
345-936-2626.
All right, good morning, beautiful people. Welcome one and welcome all. How are you guys doing this morning? Happy Thursday. How did we get here already? Wow. Well, I don't know. We're alive. That's how we got here. So good to see you guys as usual. We do have some guests who are going to be joining us, and today's tea is going to be a little bit more spicy. Gosh, I shouldn't say any more spicy than yesterday, but anyway, it's going to get spicy. So I'm going to discuss and have our guests come on first and foremost before we get into all that stuff, because I've been doing some thinking, and gosh, the more I think and mull things over, the more things actually occur to me. And sometimes that's not a good thing for y'all that I'm actually talking about, because then the puzzle starts to make a little bit more sense. It's like when you're in the Matrix, there are times, folks, when it always is, I don't know how to explain it, but you might see something from a particular dimension, and then somebody says something to you and they start talking about it and you start mulling it over some more. And then the puzzle changes its shape entirely. And that's what's happening with the situation. I'm going to explain it to you guys. You guys are like, what the heck is Sandy talking about? I'm going to break it down. I'm going to explain it. Because it has to do with women in this community and our place in society. And it has to do with respect and everything else. And it's going to be kind of deep. So I want y'all to be mentally prepared to go there with me. So let me see here now. I'm going to go ahead and share the links on WhatsApp. So folks, don't forget, we're back on our usual YouTube channel. We've got two. There's the backup option and there's the new one. We're back on the usual one. So you can find us quite easily there. And we've got a couple of things that we're going to talk about today. So we've got a pre-recorded interview with UCCI. We're going to try to squeeze that in. We're also talking with the Anti-Littering Committee, the Anti-Littering Beautification. I think it's properly the Beautification Committee. So we have some members represented from there this morning. We're just waiting, I think, Mr. Sims from DEH to come on, as well as Miss Teresa. I don't know. Let me double check. Is Miss Heather joining us as well? Teresa, or is it just you and Mr. Sims? I can't hear you. Hold on. Let me just bring you on stage. Good morning, madam.
Hi, morning.
How are you?
Hear me now? I'm good. I don't think so. I think it's just Richard and I this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that being the case, we're going to get started with you. I did get a message that he's stuck in a little bit of traffic, so
Mhm.
he'll be joining us shortly. But I know you can hold your own, honey child.
And haven't see my kids have had to introduce me to become more tech savvy.
Oh, I love it. You're doing it from your
So
phone today.
yeah, don't have a choice.
Yes,
So there you go.
very
So
good. And you look good. Uh,
well, I
yeah,
can't. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So Miss Teresa, you're part of this beautification task force. And tell us, we spoke to you some months ago. What has the task force been up to as of late?
Right. So I want to cram in as much information as I can.
Yes.
Haven't I'm not going to go into a deep dive with the history of this, right? Because we know
Mhm,
Heather's role in bringing this about, and we know the minister's transformation in making it into a task force.
mhm,
So what we've been doing primarily is trying to meet with all of the stakeholders to try and see if we can get them engaged. So
mhm,
for example, we met with the commissioner of police, I want to say about 2 months ago, and we had a really interesting conversation with him, because the view that folks tend to hold is that the
mhm,
commissioner is either unaware, or if he is not motivated to engage in this discussion.
mhm,
And he just wiped that concept away completely when we started to have the conversation. He's very much aware of what's going on, but one of the central concerns that he has, obviously, is when you're asking the police to get involved with something like this, that takes their energies away from doing other things, like,
absolutely.
exactly. So we have to prioritize, how we're going to engage the police.
Mhm,
Made a number of useful recommendations about what we can do. And in fact, I was just taking a quick look at the notes that I made coming out from the discussions that we had with him, because quite a number of the practices that he is suggesting, these are things that we don't even do on island. So, for example, we want to change the whole idea and the values around litter. The view that many people come in with is that, Caymanians don't litter, which is not true. Uh, we have to start, charity starts at home. We
mhm,
have been guilty of that ourselves. But that's more in the recent generation that you will see, because, some of the commentary that we received from people was that if you look at the older Caymanian community, we were really, really, really very have the view that, charity, cleanliness is next to godliness.
mhm,
And certainly that's the way I grew up. And so much so that when, you would invite strangers to your home, you would always take
mhm,
whatever china that you had that was clean and give it to the stranger, rather than use it for yourselves.
mhm.
So we have had a history of always wanting to convey how we view our history, our culture, and so on. And cleanliness has certainly been one of those. In recent years, with people having different values, different cultural experiences, and so on, when we engage them in our community, we find that there's an increase with the litter. There's that, obviously, the increase with construction, and people, and just people just don't consider the importance of, when you throw trash around,
Mhm,
how it actually impacts the environment, how it impacts the economy, and some
mhm,
of those things that are adjacent to issues like that. So those are not necessarily things that come to mind. We even have people calling us and complaining about when they see people standing by the road urinating, and that is not something that would be a part of the Caymanian culture.
mhm,
So putting that whole thing into context, what we want to do
mhm.
is to change mindsets,
Yeah.
change values, change the
And
lens.
do we know? Can I just ask you? Because I mean, it's so interesting that you bring up culture because obviously we've been kind of hyper focused a little bit this week on culture, right? I'm curious to know what has shifted in our culture that means we don't even care about our environment anymore. Like we can just throw garbage down. Somebody just sent me a picture off of Smith Road, and I'm so disgusted when I see photos like this to actually think that this is our beautiful island because this is certainly not the Cayman that most of us know, and yet it is the Cayman that's out there. Look at this. Look
Yeah.
at the amount of plastic and litter and garbage pails, and who's doing this? Who does not care that they're using these sites as just dumping grounds to dispose of their garbage and to just throw stuff down? What has happened to the culture of cleanliness is next to godliness? Where has that gone?
So there are a couple of elements, when you try to take the onion approach where you peel off the layers. Poverty is also one of those things because people cannot, many people that we are engaged with and that we observe, they really cannot afford to have proper dumping. The other thing is the time that it takes to collect your thoughts. I mean, most people are really only thinking about making an honest day's work in wage, being able to put food on the table and so on. So the priorities that in general that we have are a little different. The other thing is that many people who are now working among us, they don't have the same values that we have when it comes to that sort of thing. And you will see them either throwing stuff out of the window. And I mean, it incensed the minister so much on one occasion that he pulled his car off the road, immediately called the police, took a picture of what was transpiring, and ensured that this was that he was so incensed. And people don't care, Sam. So if you're not a part, if you don't see yourself as being a part of or included in this community, the values that you have are not quite the same as you would have for your own community. So there are a number of
maybe they don't care in their own country either, because I've been to some countries, and it strikes me as so interesting because one of the things that I always look at when I go to a country is the cleanliness of the streets and the environment. So whether I'm in New York, Jamaica, Honduras, whatever, I take a look around and I see, is there sitting garbage everywhere? Because that's going to tell me a lot about that particular environment that I'm in. So, I mean, I think that we also have to admit that maybe where they're coming from, they also don't care in their own countries. So that attitude is very, very easy to transfer here.
So I'm usually cautious when I go down that road, only because I tend to see that type of behavior as something that is stemming from a sense of poverty, a sense of not having real opportunities to uplift yourself financially and pursue goals that make you feel that you have value. Because if you as an individual don't have value for yourself, it's kind of like difficult when you're struggling to meet requirements, for you to even focus on. That doesn't excuse the behavior, but I'm saying that is something I usually take into consideration. But and I'll continue to underscore, the idea is to try to change values, which is why, I say to my team, when we've had this litter law in place since 1982, Sandra. The first time it was invoked was about a month ago, when we ensured that the EH had officers that were trained, and they brought a matter to the courts successfully. Granted, the individual was only charged $200, a $200 fine, which, as we know, is bubblegum. And in fact, one of the reasons why people are saying, look, this $500 fine, don't even bother with it, because people will come and very often pay the fine and continue the same bad behavior.
Yes. It's certainly not a
deterrent.
A deterrent, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and in fact, and again, I'm just going to try to go through things as I think of them when you raise the thought. Even when we're trying to ensure that everybody will be aware once they set ground on terra firma in Cayman and they see they're going through immigration, they're going to have signs all over our airport showing them that littering is against the law and the fines. So that's going to be, so when people go to the courts, for example, and start to say, well, we didn't know and we can't read and write, which is an excuse really, because we're not really importing people to do jobs here, and folks that don't have literacy that is necessary to get the job done. But they're going to know right from the get-go that it's a fine, and it's something that's taken very seriously by this community. And, we're going to try to attach all of the ramifications that come with a breach of that to various different laws. For example, the immigration law, for example, your work permit. All of those things are going to be attached to this whole idea of littering. If you come here, bring in a car, and you dispense with the car along the side of the way, with a government property on government
Mhm.
property, what we're trying to do, and this is coming out of one of the recommendations that the Commissioner of Police made, we're going to try to ensure that we have officers who can actually go and and I'll just say this also, because when we tag the vehicles, some
Mhm.
of times that's not a deterrent. So what we're now going to do is just simply remove the vehicle without even giving persons notification that we're removing it. And then they're going to have to go to the government property or the various department to try and get the particular vehicle back. So
Mhm. But a
we,
lot of them are discarding these vehicles because they're done with them, so they're not
well,
going to be
well
back for it.
that,
So,
and that is also a part of the
yeah.
problem. We recognize that people are bringing in vehicles that are not only cheap, but they're only bringing them in just to get the parts. Because
Mhm.
we've now had decades of bringing in cheap vehicle, bringing
Mhm.
in cheap labor. I mean, because that's what they can afford, and then we're actually paying the price. We as a community paying the price because we don't have direct taxation. It comes to every one of us, whether we earn 6
Mhm.
per hour or whether we earn millions per hour.
Mhm.
So we're now trying to look at that to ensure that there's a level playing field where that's
Mhm.
concerned. We've even spoken to the commissioner about ensuring that one of his officers is going to be specifically identified and going and working with the BTF to ensure
Mhm.
this is something that is done on a regular basis. And we will also try to get a couple members of the BTF deputized by the Commissioner of Police, because this is the whole idea of police and garbage. This has to be a community effort. This can't be by one person, two person, a committee, or the police. Every single person have to be engaged, everybody. And it seems as though the message is actually reverberating, because I get so many emails and so many notes on Facebook about people wanting to engage and to try to do something about it. So it's going to be more of a holistic approach, Sandra, and many people can be a little upset because, for example, in as much as the minister intends to increase the fines, and
Mhm.
to be reasonable, because if somebody that's littering a can of Coke, it's not the same as somebody who's littering huge dilapidated vehicles and so on. So we're going to look carefully at the
Mhm.
fine to make sure that it meets the breach. So there's that one element. The other thing that we want to ensure is that even when we have a financial penalty, it's not going to stop there, Sandra, because what we tend to
Mhm.
find is that people will, like I said, pay for the financial penalty, but they don't do anything about the breach. So we're going
Mhm.
to attach breach, for example, and compensation to something that the particular person needs the most. So if you have a business and you're continuing to be in breach of the law, that license could be affected. We may be, I mean, I haven't spoken to the minister about this, but this is coming in from a number of conversations that people have had with me when they come in and they complain and they say, look, Mrs. Pitcairn, we want to help. We want to do something about it. We've notified our people about it. We've engaged the police in doing something about it. And this particular person does nothing and continues to do that. And what it can do, it can reduce the value of your
Mhm.
particular property, especially
Mhm.
if you see these ad hoc garages going all over the place.
Mhm.
So what we are going to do is really take a deep dive and look into the sort of breaches that we see happening and the penalties that will arise, and how best to ensure that the person in breach feels that pain. Because
Mhm.
unless we feel that and understand that we're serious about this, people are
Yes.
going to be willing to get engaged, and we
Mhm.
will be back to the same old, same old, same. I
Yes.
told Mr. When he
And
asked, go on.
yeah, I want to say too that the other thing in terms of changing the mindset, Teresa, which I'm sure you guys appreciate, is education. And that's why you're here, to educate the general public, but also educate our children.
Oh, yeah.
I see children who grew
Yeah.
up around nothing but clutter and junk, both inside and outside of their homes and their yards. And so they're being acclimated to that type of environment where they don't see anything wrong with that. They don't see anything wrong with throwing stuff down on the floor. Sometimes I share with people, my daughter, she's only 7 years old, And we're walking outside and she's like, Mommy, why are people harming the earth? Why is there all this garbage on the ground? Like if she sees a piece of plastic, she runs to go pick it up. Although I have to sometimes tell her, for her own safety, she has to be careful what she's picking up because there's a proper way to pick up things that are discarded, right? But that's like her thinking, and that's been ingrained in her. And I hate to say it, but I probably haven't done the best job of ingraining that in her. But I reinforce that it was actually ingrained in the schools that she's gone to. They've talked about the environment. They've talked about the necessity to not throw down garbage, to pick up after yourself, to put things in the proper place. So when she sees plastic or cans or whatever outside, she's actually bothered by that. And I think that our schools also need to get on board and make sure that as part of the curriculum from year one, kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, wherever we're starting our kids at, that is a fundamental part of the message that I'm getting across to our children. That we get one earth, we have one environment, and we have to do our best to try to keep it as clean as we possibly can.
Same page, Sandy. When we started and we looked at the idea of getting people motivated and engaged and changing the laws and stuff, it was such a huge chunk to chew. We ended up actually having to divide the committee into 5 separate areas. One of them was education. So we have a team of people, and mind you, all this, we prepared a paper, a very, very comprehensive paper to the minister. We gave it to them in June last year for cabinet to review. So in the education, we have the role that the PTA will play, the role that parents will play, teachers will play, the Ministry of Education, the role that it will play as well. More recently, when we were having some of the conversations, one of the team members said to us that we hear of kids telling teachers that they're not responsible for picking up any litter, and that the helpers that are in the school are responsible for picking up the litter. So I said, well, you can appreciate where that narrative is coming from, but that is the sort of thing we need to change. I don't like pointing fingers necessarily, because people take it personally, and when people take things personally, you rarely get a lot of things done. So we thought of different ways in which we can get that message through. And also be sensitive to the fact that we have children raising children, and many of the times the values that they will need even as adults, they have, because children raising children. So when we took that deep dive, we didn't just look at the surface issues. We want to get to the root of the problem, and that's primarily poverty. And I mean, you will probably have heard me. I know many people were a little disenchanted with some of the things that I said recently about the role that big business need to play as well, because you can't run a business and think that you're going to keep the mothers in your business, knowing that the mothers have families as well. And so the whole wide issue and I know this is a small bit, but as I said to the minister when he invited me to do this, it also has to be about revolutionary thinking, about how Caymanians value themselves. Because people are always saying to us, we are unassertive, calling us stupid and dumbing us down day in, day out. I mean, when you listen to the narrative about our leadership, you don't need to go any further than that to see how people see us. And I would like us to use litter, as small as and simple as people may consider that to be, as a starting place to have the kind of conversation that we need to have about self-love, about community love, about how we value ourselves, because how we value ourselves will also translate into the narrative that we have about ourselves.
My dear, those are some powerful words this morning. And you know what is so crazy about it is it applies to so many areas of our lives. We do have Mr. Richard Sims, who's been patiently waiting in the back studio. So we're going to bring Mr. Sims in this morning. He is the director of Department of Environmental Health. So they're the ones who are responsible for your garbage collection and pickup. And to some extent, they're part of the solution of trying to keep our environment as clean as possible. So, Mr. Richard, are you with us? I see your microphone is still off. Let me know if you're ready. If not, we can certainly continue the conversation. We've got quite a number of comments that are coming in as well. I don't think he's quite ready. So let's give him a minute to get himself sorted. But let's go through some of your comments. So we have Leanna saying that we need more cycling facilities, glass makers, reuse of plastic containers, make art or home decor of these things. So I suppose that's one element of it. And, I always think, and this is something that I struggle with, it's not what you do with the stuff at the end, the life end of it, right? It's the fact that maybe you don't need it to begin with. And so we need to start re-examining how many things we're purchasing and what containers we're purchasing them in. And do we need to purchase all of these plastic containers that will end up somewhere in the environment? Because even if it's not on our little island, it is being exported overseas. It's being placed in a dump or a facility somewhere that it's literally going to take millions and millions of years for it to be able to disintegrate into nothing. And so, don't just think about your immediate environment, which will be our focus here today, obviously, but beyond that, where do the goods that you purchase and that you discard actually end up? Recycling, repurposing, donating stuff. So they often say that what's one man's, trash is another man's treasure. So that's why I'm all about, I try to keep my stuff in good condition, shoes, clothing, whatever, so that when I'm done with it, that doesn't mean that it's the life cycle of that item. It's still in fantastic condition. And I can then donate to that to people in need, and somebody else can get years worth of use out of those items as well. So thank you, Leanna, for always thinking about how we can repurpose a lot of the consumer goods that we do utilize. So Leanna also says, plus the fine needs to increase to $500,000. That would be, that might be putting it a little bit too high. Like, well, I mean, if supporting our, if we're supporting the thought process, then I totally get it. But you can't put it too high where it's not going to ever be enforced. And Teresa, I'm shocked to hear, and I want to ask Mr. Richard about this, but I am shocked to hear that we've had legislation in the book all of these years, and we've never had anybody taken to court for it. I think that demonstrates how we and how the government and the police are not really serious about this issue. When did you say the legislation went into place?
So we've had it since 1982, and it went through some iterations in the 1990s. But if we
that's how many years?
Yes, centuries ago, I call it. So if we take what the judge said in his judgment,
41 years.
He said that this is the first matter that he as a magistrate to deal with this. And kudos to Richard, and I'm hoping that he gets situated really quick, because I don't want to continue.
Richard, something is going on with your camera there. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay, Richard, right over to you. And I would only touch on cost that Leanna made. One of the reasons why you will see that these fines are going to be significant is because it's going to cost the government to get that particular matter to the courts. So you're paying the court staff, you're paying the DH staff, you're paying so the cost that we get as a consequence from enforcement should be able to pay for the cost it is to bring the matters to the courts. Richard, morning, welcome, and I'm going to just leave you right there. Run with it.
Yes, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My apologies for being a little tardy.
That's quite all right. So 41 years legislation was on the books, and we've only had our first ever conviction. They only got a fine of $200, and I guess in order to clean it up, was that part of the mandate as well?
Well, the thing is, over the years, there's been challenges with prosecution, because, and some of that too is the way how the legislation is written too, because when you're first dealing with litter, you have to give an abatement notice, so you have to which is sort of like a warning to do something, right? That you have to clean up the area and stuff like that. And so 90% of the time you'd find that whenever we have to to get involved where abatement notices have to be served. People comply because they understand that, if you don't, then there'll be repercussion of prosecution, right? So, hence that is some of the reasons. Plus, previously, there were staff who weren't really trained per se in how to deal with the full on investigations, how to take it on from beginning to end and take it through the court systems. So, in preparation for that, I, engage the services of the DPP office to assist us in training the staff in how to do case file preparations, interviewing suspects, and all these different things. And so, as a result of that, we were able to put persons before the court, yes, for the first time.
41 years. Wow. I mean, it's shocking.
Yeah, but when
It's a first, so hopefully
yeah,
more
but
to come.
when you think about things like that, where you have to resort to prosecuting somebody for keeping their own space tidy. You know what I mean? It's really disheartening, because that is something that that should come naturally to us. I mean, and I know Miss Teresa mentioned it earlier. When we were kids, we, I can guarantee you every Saturday morning, that was our task to sweep up the yard and make sure everything looks tidy around the place. But nowadays, it seems like we have a lot of don't care attitudes, and if we go and I find challenges with my staff, they would go and talk to people to say, hey, listen, you have to clean up this space, and it's sort of like an argument as to why they don't want to do that or can't do it, especially when it comes to getting rid of derelict vehicles and stuff like that. People we understand people want to hold on to their antique, but if your antique is not looking good and it's making the neighborhood look bad, and it's been kept in such a way that you run down the neighborhood, then it's not no longer an antique, it's a nuisance.
Yeah, it's
right?
just trash. I mean,
as well.
maybe people need to. Sorry, Teresa, go ahead.
Do I said, and also a home for rodents. By the way, Sandra, people are saying that they're trying to get call. I don't know if this is
936. I haven't seen any calls come in yet, but 936-2626 is the telephone number. So
Yeah,
I haven't seen any rings yet. But yes, I mean, more education has to happen, because it can't be that people think you can have a vehicle, standing water, all these things, and that is not just bad for the environment, but that's actually bad for the health and wellness of the community.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good morning, caller. Yes, morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm glad you have Mr. Sims on the radio. I am having an issue with a derelict vehicle parked on my business property. The last 4 weeks, ma'am. I have called the police station. When I called the police, they tracked the license plate. The police informed me that the vehicle had been sold. The lady told him the vehicle had been sold. I called DEH yesterday because I was told that normally they would tag vehicles. And the lady on the line told me, well, I would have to come to DEH to fill out a form and pay $75. Well, it's not a matter of the $75. It is a matter of the principle of the matter. Because to me, when I import a car, or I have a car registered in my name, it is my corporate responsibility, if I have sold the vehicle, for me to transfer the license. That's the first thing. If I haven't, then I, as the owner, is ultimately responsible for that vehicle. In other words, if that vehicle that is parked on my property had committed, let's say, an offense, had killed someone, had committed, was involved in a robbery, the police would have found the owner. And I am saying to them, please find the owner and tell them that they need to move the vehicle off of my property. It is obstructing my business. This is 3 weeks, ma'am, 3 weeks. And you know what they told me? You know what they said to me? That if it's on public property, that Department of Environment will move it for free. That's what I was told. Well, guess what? At some point in time, this is going to become public property, and DEH will have to come and move it, because I am tired. I think I have been very patient now with the vehicle, and it has not been moved. And the other thing is, as far as I know, in the law, when I imported my car or anything, there's an environmental impact fee, which I assume takes into account for disposal. So why is the vehicle simply not? In other words, to me, increase then the environmental impact. You put it $500. So if eventually the vehicles is sold, then eventually somebody has to pay for it. Let's say DH have to move it, but at least they would have recouped that money. Because I tell you, the average person cannot maybe afford $75 to move it. For the vehicle to be disposed. It is not fair. It is not, honestly, and the police was sort of like not. I mean, they didn't pass on who the previous owner was, but they spoke to who the car was registered in, and they said the person said they had sold the vehicle, and that was it. That was all they told me.
What an experience. So thank you so much, caller. Let's see what Mr. Sims has to say. Thank you.
All right. A couple of points there that you raised, right? First, let me address the private versus public spaces. Right? When a vehicle is in a public space, right, and it is constitute a derelict, because what may be a derelict to you may not necessarily be a derelict to us, because we have to make sure that it's a derelict in accordance with what the law says a derelict is. Right? So, and in addition to that, for example, what you see as a derelict vehicle with missing wheels, windscreen, doors, that sort of stuff, obviously being taken apart, right? And in addition to that, the vehicle must be expired for more than 6 months. Okay,
that's so what qualifies as a derelict vehicle.
Exactly. So if it's not, if a vehicle is not expired through registration for more than 6 months, then we really can't touch it, right?
What? Maybe that legislation needs to change, because
those are things that
makes sense. Because now that explains why when people crash their vehicles, they just leave it there forever, and it would never be considered a derelict vehicle because the registration might be perfectly fine.
Okay, let me address that point that you just made in relation to accidents, right? Remember now, it's highly likely, 90% of the time, when a vehicle involved in an accident on the street, right? It is a licensed and well insured vehicle. It's just that it got involved in an accident. No, that is not a matter for the Department of Environmental Health. That is a matter for the police to ensure that the owner remove those vehicles off the streets, right? Because if remember now, the only difference you're now saying it's a derelict because it involved an accident, it's been sitting outside the road. But then there are a lot of people who might be interested in that. The insurance companies, I can't just go and take those vehicles and then go crush it, and then it's the subject of an investigation that is ongoing, right?
Right.
So whereas there's a true derelict vehicle in a public space, I can assure that somebody tags it and moves it within 20 foot. It gives what the tagging does. It gives the owner notice to remove the vehicle within 24 hours. Unless or else we will remove it for you. And if we will remove it for you, it means highly likely that we're going to take it to the landfill and destroy it, which then indemnifies me under the law for taking that action. All right. So you have to look at what is involved, how the vehicle is involved for us to actually go and take action. Now, the lady mentioned that she had this vehicle in her parking lot, which is a private company's parking lot. It's not in a public space. So you as the owner of that property has the right to remove it. And hence the reason why when come to Department of Environmental Health, we will say, well, yes, you can move it because it's well within your right to clear your property if the owner refuses to move it. So this is where we will then say, okay, you have to pay $75 and we'll come and remove it. All right. But if it's in a public space, that gives us all the authority to tag it and give it time. And when we remove it, and if we destroy it in that sense, then we are indemnified under the law, right? No.
So she can, just to clarify, Mr. Sims, what you just said, she can contact you all. You're not going to give her a runaround about, well, it's not your vehicle, you don't own it, blah, blah, blah. She can contact you and say, there's a derelict vehicle on my property, I want to have it removed.
Yes, and when she pays for it to remove it, we'll remove it. Okay. Now, in terms of the environmental impact fee, right?
Stick a picture, Richard. Hold it. And that's a part of the problem. Yeah. Because we're now passing on that breach to someone else who's not responsible. And that's one of the things that we're actually looking into very seriously.
Yes.
And with respect to the whole insurance thing, we know that the courts have made a decision using something, with the example that the lady just used. A buys the car today and sells it to somebody tomorrow. B sells it to somebody the next day. C sends it to another person to D. So you have that continuum. And what the courts have said is that because this has gone on for such a long time, they're not necessarily willing to hold the last holder of the car responsible for any kind of cost that would arise, because it's impossible to get those costs from the original owner.
Right.
That's going to stop now, because and I'm not even sure what authorized the courts to do that, but but anyways, it is something that we're definitely looking into and trying to sure that that forms part of the policy that we're looking into.
Because legislatively, you can change these things and not leave it up to the court's discretion. To be able to say.
So Sandra, that's a lot of what we're hoping that cabinet will approve once the minister submits it and articulates the concerns and stuff. We will ensure that discretions are given not only to the courts, but also to the persons who are going to be actually, like I said, using the example of the constable, removing a vehicle from a public space without notification. And as Richard rightly say, they usually notify the and by the way, Richard, let me tell you, thank you publicly for the work that you have done. I know this is not an easy job, and I know even members of committee give you grief, but I want to say a public shout out and give you creds and thank you for the work that you've done. And I'll just let you go on. All
right. So Peter has a suggestion that I'm thinking that you will not agree with. Peter says, tow the car onto the main road and leave it. That's exactly what we don't want people to do.
Then we'll have a flood of derelicts in the streets, right? But I just want to address the environmental impact fees that your caller mentioned earlier. That fee, right, that you pay, and I do support, and I've said before that maybe we can find some way of including the maybe an additional $75 that we charge for the towing of the vehicle when it needs to be taken from your home to a landfill, right? So that way you just pay one upfront cost, then you don't have to worry about it after that. But that fee that you actually pay is for processing the vehicle in the landfill when it's come to its end of the end of its useful life, right? So that is actually what that is for. It's not for coming to your residence or anywhere and collecting that vehicle and transporting it to the landfill.
Wow. All right, let's take in a few comments. It's quite shocking. All right, so Rusty says poverty and despair would make people not care about the environment around them. Someone else on WhatsApp says that they're not quite buying that story because Caymanians have been poor for a very, very long time, and we still had a lot of pride. So this person says Caymanians practice sustainable lifestyles before it was a buzzword. We reuse items. How do you think wampas were invented? We only took what we needed, but we wasn't dirty. So poverty does not equal nastiness. We have imported too many people who don't share our values, and the urinating on the public roadway is a prime example of that. And that's something that we talk about all the time here on the program, where people are now doing that. And it's astonishing how people seem to think that it's okay. Johan says we import too many people from all over the world that come from places where littering and nastiness is acceptable and a way of life. Plus, too many locals are lazy and assume government going to clean up after them. It's disgusting. Clean up after yourself. Romelia says, Sandy, I invited you out numerous times to show you this. You are just so busy. Yes, I am busy. But, I have said I'm happy to go into neighborhoods, but Miss Romelia, I don't need to see it in Windsor Park because I see it all over the island. I take a drive out East End and I see it. Thankfully, my neighborhood isn't too bad, but we have a derelict home in this neighborhood where that person just doesn't want to clean up their yard. And right now we have, standing water that will sit there for days after the last rain in the middle of a dengue fever outbreak. So again, public health concerns come out of a lot of the lack of cleanliness that we see around the place. Zelfa says there's a truck filled with garbage by the plaza on Smith Road, adjacent to the HSA building. Can DH not do anything? A truck filled with garbage. Miss Zalfa, maybe give us the exact location. You said it's adjacent to the HSA building. Is that Smith Road Plaza? Or is that, because HSA actually has more than one building now, but maybe just give us an exact location and that would be helpful. Miss Venice says cleanliness is next to godliness. I asked the question, where is godliness gone? Godliness is down the drain and so has cleanliness. Johan says, with derelict vehicles in neighborhoods all over Cayman be considered littering and subject to a significant fine. So I think Mr. Sims was just explaining the difficulty in particular when it comes to derelict vehicles. So there's an issue of tracking down the owner, and there's also obviously an issue with where the vehicle is located. Are those kind of the main concerns I'm hearing coming out of this situation, Mr. Sims?
Yeah, but I can tell you, as it relates to vehicles in neighborhoods, right? Because remember now, the streets within your neighborhoods are considered public streets, right?
Yes.
So if there are derelict vehicles on those streets, we'll certainly be addressing those and serving the appropriate notices. I can assure you, right, you will see some differences in the next coming weeks because I've just got 3 brand new grapple trucks that are in our possession right now, and they're currently being decaled and getting ready to be placed on the road. So as of next week, we will be going within the neighborhoods because there'll be one truck specifically assigned for this purpose, right? So we should be able to clean up the streets in the next couple months, but started next week we'll be going into the neighborhoods to get this done. So if you don't want your vehicles to be removed, it's best you take it and put it into your yard, secure it properly. But if it's something that we consider to be a derelict under the law, then I can assure you that we will be taking action in having it removed.
Very good. So Johan, hopefully that answers your question. Leanna says, what happened to the junkyard that was behind Uncle Larry's on Eastern Avenue? Well, I'm happy to say, Leanna, this is where when Teresa talks about the responsibility of, private sector as well, that property was actually purchased by the DART organization and they cleaned it up very, very quickly. And I only remember this because at the time, I think somebody was renting that. It was like a garage or something, and someone was renting it, and DART had given that individual notice to vacate so that they could dispose of all the derelict tires and everything else that was kept on that property. And there was some kind of discussion around it, like, who does DART think he is? Well, he's a person who obviously wants to keep the properties that he owns to some standard. People were actually upset about that. They were upset that he had given this company, whoever it was, notice. That was something that as you come out of the airport, you fly into our country, that's one of the first things you see if you're going out in the eastern districts is this, I think I got a mosquito in here, is this derelict site. Like it was just such an eyesore. And look at it now, it is green grass, it's kept nice and clean, there's no debris there. And I thank that organization for making that move. So, it says a lot about us that we have a mindset that sometimes when people try to even clean up their yards or clean up neighborhoods, we're actually fighting them down and thinking that there's actually something wrong with that. Pretty crazy if you ask me. So lots of questions and comments coming in.
So people can actually
issue.
I was just going to say that just to tag on to a comment that raised earlier about this is a whole community effort. It's not just isolated to different departments, government departments, and so on. If you see something, say something. We're good at taking videos. We're good at taking pictures. We're good. And there's we can always submit all the queries that we have to DEH. And I'll leave that to Richard to let you know how we actually communicate with him to make those complaints. Yes, see something, do something about it. Although this is something that is on everybody's tongue, be the change that you want to see, and start getting engaged and active and get this done, because when we do it together, it's more likely that we will be a success.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I definitely encourage people to report or littering and illegal dumping as well as derelict vehicles. You can either call us at 949-6696 or send an email to our dehcustomerservice.gov.ky, and someone will definitely respond to you. But also in the same breath, we want to make sure people have the understanding that just if you actually see someone dumping something, we just be ready and prepared to give statements to say just that, because we need that sort of evidence to take to the courts to have a successful prosecution, right?
Yes.
If you're just giving us tip about an area, it's hard to kind of go to the area and find the evidence of actually who did it. We can see that there is litter everywhere, yes, but then sometimes it's that fingerprint that we need. For example, we got lucky once, I believe, where we were able to find somebody with a mailing address name in the rubble, and we were able to put a file together for that. But
Wonderful.
but there are those majority of times when we hear of littering and we go to the spot and all we find is just the rubble, and we're able to clean that up and leave it nicely. But we want to prosecute people for that sort of action, because that cannot be tolerated, right?
Yes, we do have a caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning.
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 Good morning.
Good morning, Teresa, and good morning to Mr. Sims. Is it?
Yes, Richard.
Yes.
Okay. I have to say, first and foremost, I am a little bit confused as to the purpose of the beautification task force or committee or board or whatever it is. Please forgive me for not knowing the proper name, that is. Upon the implementation of this, I remember calling in and asking a few questions, and that's been some time ago, because I had actually spoken to quite a few people years and years ago about a problem that I'm having in my community. I know that the MP for Savannah came out, had a look, pictures were taken, and nothing has been done. Okay? It is private property. So I don't know, like I said, whether this task force has been set up to be anti-littering. Is it to clean up the island? I don't care what community it's in. Or is it in an effort now to catch the recent people littering, find them, and so on? Because especially the area I'm talking about, I did hear the gentleman say something about what constitutes a derelict vehicle. So I'll ask, if it's there rotting for years and years and years, would that not constitute it as derelict, whether it's on private property or not?
Well, you see, once a vehicle is creating a nuisance, you see, there's different ways about dealing with these things, right? So when you have a derelict vehicle in a public space, that just requires a tag. We can move it within 24 hours and dispose of it. When a derelict vehicle is on a private property in a neighborhood, now that's a different type of notice now, where you'd have to give an abatement notice. For example, if that vehicle is, they're causing, a nuisance by eyesore, or it's having rats and all these different things in it, snakes and whatnot, then that requires a different notice, where I'll have to serve an abatement notice. And an abatement notice, it normally gives the person about 28 days to clear up their property, right? And then thereafter they can also apply for an extension if they've made efforts to try to do some things but haven't got all the necessary funding and resources to get things done. But I can tell you, there are often times when we do offer our community services to members of the public who we know or definitely can't afford certain things. All they're required to do is fill out a community service form, and we will assist them, right, where we can. So, but there are avenues for that. But it's a longer process than a derelict vehicle sitting in a public space.
Please forgive me, but I'm having a little difficulty hearing you.
Mhm.
I think I forgot to mention that this is undeveloped private property. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but my concern here
No.
is the length of time that I've been trying to get something done about it. And it is a hazard to the community and especially to the properties, directly across from it. And also, I wanted to ask the question, unless I guess the laws could have changed. I wouldn't have to know. I could have slept through quite a few. But I know once upon a time, if you purchase property, you were told, or it was in the mandate, that you had to keep the property cleared. And if not, then you would be fined. And I forget how much it was. Now, I have someone telling me that if you have a piece of property and you want to clear that property, and I'm speaking about private property here, not commercial property, that you have to make an application to planning, pay, and then wait for permission to clear that property. Is that the case?
Yes, as far as I know, that's the case. You have, if you want to engage in land clearing, you have to make application to planning. But I don't want to speak too much on that because that's not my
No,
area,
no,
and I
no,
don't want
I
to
don't
mislead you.
mean, no, I don't
But
mean if
Brenda,
you're doing it as a business. I mean, if you
Brenda,
want to have, yes.
Brenda, if you don't mind, stick a pin because you've just actually raised a hugely important point. We have a whole plethora of laws that actually address litter,
Mhm.
but they're not in alignment. And I'm gonna call this out today only because I've been shouting this song now since June 2022.
Well, if
Mhm.
you would allow me to just interject, that was the point I wanted to make. Because one law is contradicting the other law, and it doesn't encourage anyone to do the right thing.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say that they're necessarily in contradiction, but I would say that they're not in alignment. And it's difficult to get all of the ministries responsible to be engaged in doing this. And as you know, and that's as far as I will go with shouting out and calling people out because I don't like
Mhm.
embarrassing people, as we know. That's been a fundamental problem that we've had. And like I said, this is from June 2022.
Mhm.
Unfortunately now, Richard, I have to run because I
Okay.
haven't
Caller,
15
thank you so much.
yet.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
all the very best for the and thanks very much, Sandra, for having us on. Richard, thanks
Yes,
for joining.
absolutely.
That's, thank you, Madam Chair.
I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't stay on much longer anyway, but because I have another meeting
Yes.
to go after.
Okay. So everybody's busy this morning, but let me say this, that maybe Miss
I can give you
Teresa,
another 5 minutes.
yeah, maybe Miss Teresa doesn't want to call people out, but somebody has to. And so then the question is, if we, from a legislative perspective, have seen these issues with the different pieces of legislation, why hasn't that been a priority for legislators to fix? I know you can't speak to that, sir, but
No, but I can just say though that this is in the pipeline. You know, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with the
Mhm.
legislation to make sure that that at least from the environmental health perspective, that things are done in accordance with the public health law, right? And we're looking at actually creating a separate law for environmental health, which would tie up a lot of these things for us to enforce. I know that some people are, they would criticize how the enforcement of things are being done around here, but we are following the law, right? The way how the law is written, it sort of gives us the opportunity to warn you a couple of times first before it goes to ultimate prosecution, right? This is
Mhm.
where when I mentioned the tagging, what that
Mhm.
is sort of a warning notice to you to do something before we take action. When it comes to what an abatement notice is, a warning notice to you to take
Mhm.
action before we take action, right? So, it may seems like, we're not doing anything when you don't understand how the
Mhm.
application of the law works
Mhm.
and so on. So it's easy to criticize, oh, DH is not doing anything, but we're actually
Mhm.
doing something. But because if somebody complies with the notice, for example, then
Mhm.
there's no action for us to take, right? And
Right.
then, what you see happen is sometimes they'll comply with the notice, yes, and then you don't see it for a while, and then 6 months later or so, they start doing the same thing again. And you say, well,
Mhm.
oh, but I reported this matter to DH, they did nothing. But
Mhm.
within actual fact, we did something, but it's just that the person either didn't learn anything from that and then start doing it again, and then we have to go through the whole warning process again because it's now a separate action, right?
Mhm.
And so when you end up in court from the Department of Environment Health, that we have exhausted all efforts with you, and
Mhm.
give you enough notices, enough warning for you to end up there. So if you end up in court,
Mhm.
there's no excuse, right? Because you
Yes.
cannot say we didn't give you
So
enough.
those are definitely the worst case scenarios because you've given them
Yep.
warnings, you've contacted them. But still, one case in 41 years, I mean, I still find that a hard pill to swallow. But anyway,
Yeah.
so are we looking at increasing the fines in any meaningful way?
We've made our recommendations, but at the end of the day, that's up to the legislators to do.
Mhm.
Whether they want to increase that or not. I mean, you've heard some people say yes, let's increase fines. Some people say why do it now when the economy when people are hurting. But when I say people, you should take care of your space, not because you're hurting. I mean, you should be nasty, right? So,
Mhm.
just be a good citizen, and regardless of what circumstances you find yourselves in, just take care of your space and respect other space, because you have people who are illegally dumping on other people's property. The owners themselves don't know until we contact them and saying, hey, I'm going to serve you an abatement notice because you are having
Mhm.
illegal dumping going on your property, because we have no other choice but to first reach out to the property owner.
Mhm.
And some of them are quite surprised when because they have several properties, haven't visited this particular one in a while, and until we visit them, and then they go, oh wow, I didn't notice, and thank you for bringing my attention. Then they have to pay out of their own pockets now to clean up the
Mhm.
property with a situation that they did not create themselves, right? And so all I'm appealing to and asking members of the public to respect other people's property.
Mhm.
Why go out of your way
Mhm.
to place a vehicle on somebody else's property to strip it or whatever, and you didn't get no authorizations whatsoever from them to do
Mhm.
that, right? It's disrespectful, and we can't allow people to continue to do that, right?
Mhm.
And I'll also say this, that any owner that find themselves in a position where they feel helpless, just reach out to us, and we will find some way to provide some assistance
Mhm.
in getting their properties cleaned up for them. So it's not all about, yes, we will take um, prosecutor actions if needed, but
Mhm.
then we are also willing to work with owners to ensure that we provide
Mhm.
a clean space for everyone to enjoy around us.
All right. So let me see here. We have a question here. This person says, question for DEH. My neighborhood is full of yards with abandoned furniture, vehicles, etc. A real nasty and untidy mess, devaluing the neighborhood. What can be done about it, or as these are private yards?
Yeah, again, this is the same thing. You send us you can email us at deh.gov.ky, report those incidents to us. I'll get an environmental officer to go out and investigate these things, and if necessary, this is where we will serve abatement notices on these property owners to clear up the property.
All right. So you can reach out to DEH folks. And you know what? If DEH doesn't know about the problem, then I guess, there's probably little that they can do. Richard Parsons says, is there a way for the property owner to take possession of the vehicles dumped onto their property? Well, normally they're trash and nobody wants them. So I don't know if you want to take possession of trash, but I mean, once it's abandoned on your property, then I mean, legally you have an argument there after it's been abandoned probably for a certain amount of time. That might be in another piece of legislation. But I think it was Charles that was asking, why would the property owner have to pay if we've already paid this fee when we register vehicles?
Yeah.
Why does the property owner have to pay another fee for you guys to come and collect it?
And that's again, just to be clear, right? That so that people understand, that fee that they're paying for is the
Mhm.
processing fee for that vehicle when it comes to the landfill. That's what that didn't, because you bring it
But
into the
you mean
island,
the
right?
initial fee that we
You've
pay at
used it.
registration?
The fee that you pay at registration is
Yes.
to use the vehicle on the roads, right? You pay license and inspection fees that allows
No,
you
you
to
said that
move about on the roads with the vehicle.
we pay a fee that's related to DEH. What is that fee for?
At vehicle
A
licensing?
disposal. Didn't you say we pay a disposal fee or something?
No, yeah. Every vehicle that's first enter the country, right? When you go to
Yes.
customs, you pay the duty,
Hmm.
and you pay what you call an environmental fee, right?
Okay.
That fee, I think that's what a lot of people is confusing. That fee to
Okay.
include the transportation of that vehicle to the landfill. It does not include the fee to transport your vehicle from your residence to the landfill. What that fee that you're paying for is
Hmm.
for when the vehicle has reached the end of its useful life. We have to process it at the landfill because the vehicle's coming in.
Hmm.
It has to go out. So that's what you're paying for. We have to bail it, we strip it of all its, the batteries and fluids and all
Hmm.
these different things, and bail it and then ship it off island.
Mm,
Right? That's what you're paying for. That's what
I
that
see.
fee covers. It doesn't cover you calling us and say, "Hey, I'm ready for you to take this to the landfill." So that $75 that
Okay.
you're paying for
Right.
is for us to come to your resident, transport. Well, you can do it yourself. You can actually, when you have terminated that vehicle at vehicle licensing,
Hmm.
you can take it to the landfill yourself. You don't have to call us. You can find whatever
Hmm.
means you have, whether it's be by towing it, calling a
Hmm.
tow truck, or if none of that is available and you want to call us, then you pay us $75. We come forward for you, but you can do it yourself and save that $75.
Hmm. All right. Someone is asking about the public private injunctions. What is that all about?
Public-private injunction.
I'm not. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. We'll get some clarification on that. But one of the other things I think that is worth mentioning here as well, Mr. Sims, is when your resources at DEH are diverted to having to pick up all these. You just said you're getting a truck that's specific for that reason. Now I don't know how much that truck costs, but I'm sure it's a pretty penny.
Oh, yes.
These are things that impact your budget as a department.
Hmm.
You're having to order more equipment, more staffing, and you're less able to, perhaps you can answer this question for me, focus on things like the collection of the regular routine garbage if you're constantly having to divert resources out there to all of these littering jobs and picking stuff up. And wouldn't it be a wonderful world, even from your perspective in your department, if you didn't have to focus so much energy and resources on this problem as well?
Well, yeah, it's a lot to juggle, but at the same time, I do have separate people for separate functions.
Mhm.
We have the environmental health section, and officers who deal with um, these sort of derelicts and abatement notices and investigations. Then you have the collection crew, who go out there and collect these, derelict vehicles and stuff like that, and your household garbage, so different set of people. And unfortunately, I've just been blessed with a few more people, that I had on board. So to assist with all of this. So I'm not doing too bad at the moment, but we're busy, yes. And as I mentioned earlier, just got some new trucks coming in. There's another one just arrived last night, so we have equipment coming in. To keep up with all the collection. But what we want to ensure, though, is that people understand what this littering campaign is all about, is that we want everyone to take responsibility for their own litter. Um, and sometimes, and I say this time and time again, just to
Mhm.
give an example of the challenges that that we are faced with, right? When it comes to roadside and litter collection. Um, if you look at what the NRA stats, I'm just going to draw a reference to the
Mhm.
Linford Pearson Highway, for example, right? You come down, people say, "Oh, it's so littery and litter everywhere." When you think about what the stats from the NRA, there are 30,000. Think about this for a second. 30,000 vehicles that traverse that highway every single day. 30,000. And if we have 1% of the vehicles that pass that road, 1%, which is 300 people,
Mhm.
tossing out something out of their cars, whether it's a can there or a
Mhm.
piece of tissue here and there, right? That's 300 vehicles doing that every single day. You can imagine the challenge I have with going behind those people and cleaning up
Mhm,
after them,
mhm,
right? So and it looks terrible because we would pass there this morning, clean it up, and we'll go by there tomorrow again, and it's as if we never did anything, right? So
mhm,
those are the habits that we want people to change. Listen, discipline yourself. If you know you just bought something from a fast food restaurant, whatever that may be, wait till you get home before you dispose of your waste, right?
mhm,
Or wait till you get to your workplace or whatever destination you go to, and dispose of your waste. Don't just chuck it out the window and say, and because the next thing, what's going to happen behind that, you're going to hear the public say, well, DH is not picking up the garbage. Well, we need to stop people from throwing it out in the first place, because we're
mhm,
not the
mhm,
ones throwing out the garbage out there every day, but we have the mandate to go and pick it up. But
mhm,
so those are the kind of habits we want people to make sure that they change.
mhm.
And just kind of respect the space, respect the island, and remember the tourism product. It's part of our tourism product, right? So cleanliness is what we market, and we want to make sure that when people actually come here,
Mhm.
they see a clean and beautiful island, and first impression, and throughout until when they leave.
All right. So, question from Miss Brenda. She says, "Is there anywhere on island that containers for plastics can be purchased? Please advise." Is she, do you mean, Miss
Um,
Brenda, recycling containers? What kind of containers for plastic? I'm not sure. Maybe some clarification on that.
I mean,
And
I'm
she
sure
also says
most
that.
of these hardware stores,
Mhm,
yeah, I'm sure they can get different types of receptacles at these hardware stores on island.
mhm,
So you know, if you look, because there are people who are looking, because like for me, I know in my household I have um, recycled bins in the house, that I use, um, uh, different plastic containers that store different stuff. We would have cans and plastic and bottles and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm assuming that's what she's alluding to. So.
mhm. All right. And she's asking if any of your trucks are equipped for plastic.
Yeah, but well, remember we do operate recycling depots, so we
Mhm,
we collect plastics, and cardboards, and metals at the moment. So we're equipped to transport those things from the depots.
mhm,
But I also want to take the opportunity to encourage people to also use the depots, because in every district there are depots
mhm.
that they can take their recyclables to,
Can you
and they
remind
can
us of
transport it
where
to.
those are?
Well, and we have Borden Town, by the police station, and then we have Foster's at Countryside. We have an East End right by the playing field. We have a North Side, by the Civic Center in North Side. We also have in Georgetown, we have Barcam, Foster's Food Fair, um, Kirk's on Eastern Avenue,
Mhm,
and Kimana Bay. And we also have one in West Bay, by the playfield in West Bay. So
mhm,
there's enough where people can actually take their recyclables to, in one of these
mhm,
locations. I encourage people to do that, because we want to let people understand that we are big on recycling. We are doing recycling, and we
mhm,
want to make sure that they play their part as well to participate in this venture with us.
mhm. So, Mowbray DaCosta says no fines given to cars that litter, no police on the road. So this is now where the community, I think, Mr. Mowbray, needs to come together, because the police can't be all places at all times. DEH can't be all places at all times. But we all see things, whether it's somebody throwing a cigarette out the window. I mean, recently I witnessed someone throw some plastic, I think it was a plastic bottle, out of the window right in the Savannah area right in front of me. And I have a dash cam on my car. I pulled the dash cam details and sent it to the police. And that's what you got to do. Everybody should start
Yeah.
driving around with dash cams. And when you see it, you say something. I mean, the other day I was shocked to see someone, but unfortunately the back camera couldn't really grab the footage in the right way. But this person was driving behind me, and I could see them with an open bottle of liquor in 5 o'clock traffic drinking. and we wonder why we have so many accidents on the highway. But folks, as good citizens of this country, there are going to be times when we see something, and it's our responsibility to speak up. If you've got derelict, lots in your community, and someone who won't, keep their house, their yard or their property tidy, contact DEH, have them issue that abatement order, because I'm telling you from personal experience, they will do it and the place will get cleaned up. And, you just have to be vigilant and stay on top of it, because it's easy to sit back and do nothing. I know that it requires some degree of work to actually be the change that you'd like to see within your own community. Ms. Brenda says, can you teach your garbage collectors to treat our bins and receptacles with care and respect? That's the least that they can do, not destroying them.
Yes, been constantly talking to the team about these kind of complaints, and we are getting better. We've seen where people used to complain how we used to throw down their garbage bin and they blow it in the roads. Now we've actually got the teams actually placing them back in the receptacles where they are receptacle.
Yes.
So we're improving. So hopefully she should see some changes in that.
Yes. All right. So we're going to wrap up here. Mr. Sims did say that he does have to go. So just a few more comments. This person says they sent some pictures earlier of an area that I think they said it's the east side of Smith Road prep school parking lot. This has to stop. There are actually people there who are, I'll show you the picture, who are dumping at that location. I can also pin you the location so that you can see exactly where it is, Mr. Sims. But they said simple solution, an impound lot. Cars are towed by government or private contractor, and you have to pay to get it back. Is that something that is being recommended or is on the books in any way?
Well, the only law that I know of that has this any sort of impound is it under the traffic law, where the commissioner of police can impound vehicles for certain things. But in relation to for us, once this, unfortunately, for when the DH come to collect a vehicle, I can tell it where it's going straight to the landfill.
Because it's more money to maintain an impound lot and to go through all that additional paperwork. Just get straight to the point. Keep your vehicles in order. Keep them on your private property. And if you don't, we're going to dispose of them, and you're not going to get your vehicle back. And that's the end of that.
Yeah. Well, that's how the DH operate once we get involved. Because the thing is, when you think about an impound lot, it's easy to say, yes, let's create an impound lot. But then you got to look at, okay, so what are the repercussions of that? We are now going to be having these derelict vehicles harboring roaches and rats and everything else in another area that gives you cause a concern to complain about. Now say, it's over infested and all this sort of thing. So we have to be mindful about what the things that we say we want, but then you have to look at the consequences
of that. Yeah. So Ms. Marva says, good morning, all. The government can make changes by simply revising laws. Laws can solve many of these issues. Revised laws start writing tickets in the legal owner's name and fining them. If it is a foreign national that's on a work permit, tickets as such could jeopardize their work permit renewal. If they're Caymanian, unpaid fines will start incurring penalties that could be and not limited to a warrant for your arrest. Until we start holding persons responsible for their actions or lack thereof, then they will. And unfortunately, Miss Marva, you ran out of space in that one. But I mean, we get the idea in terms of enforcement. So Anita says it would be helpful if DEH did a litter pickup before cutting the veggies. They simply cut litter products into multiple pieces, making the situation 10 times worse. So this is when you guys, I guess, but is that DEH that does that cleans up the side of the road? Or is that
no? That's the NRA. The NRA that's responsible for that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that's not DEH.
But I think what some of the things, and that's a valid point. Because sometimes I think we need to coordinate a little better with our partners NRA to see when they're actually going to do those cuts, and then maybe we can do an advanced collection in streets where they're going to cut. So that's something that we can certainly work on for sure. Because I do see the point. It's once it's all minced up, sometimes it makes it a little worse than what it is. But
yeah, it's
but
definitely
certainly
harder.
that is something that we can work on, because that's easy. We can say, look, just tell us where you're going to cut next, and then we'll send our team ahead in advance of that, so that can happen.
Miss
Anyway,
Chastain
Sandy,
is
I'm gonna
asking,
jump
yeah,
off.
real quick. Miss Chastain is asking, do you have to pay for the bins from DEH? I don't know if she means the new ones that you guys are doing down in Prospect, because those you're providing, and there's no cost to the community for those, no direct cost, I should say.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a good note to end on this part, because I'm really excited about the wheel bin project that we've just launched in the Prospect area. Yesterday we had our first pickup, and we've had nothing but positive feedback surrounding that. The residents are happy, the team is happy, because it makes their work much easier. In terms of the collection, they didn't have to lift a lot of bins like they were doing before. So reduce any sort of impact for injuries and so on. But those bins were provided to the residents free of cost to them. Because it's a part of our pilot program. It's a study that we're conducting. So we just want to make sure that people who participated, they didn't have to feel the pinch of trying to participate. So we supplied those bins free of cost to them.
All right, folks. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Mr. Sims. Thank you, Miss Teresa. This morning, unfortunately, Parliamentary Secretary Miss Heather Bodden could not come on the program today, but she is part of the committee with Miss Teresa Pitcairn, and they're working hard to hopefully make some meaningful change. So I appreciate it very much. Mr. Sims, always willing to come on the program, and we appreciate that, and we'll continue to do our part.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here this morning.
One
I
final
just want to shout out my.
Wait! Before you say it, we got an important notice here this morning. This person says, please give a shout out to Richard Sims on his 27th wedding anniversary today. So big shout out to you and your wife celebrating 27 years.
All right, thank you. See, I'm sorry celebrating on Cayman Road. Yeah, I just want to also a big shout out to my staff, right? And the hard working men and women at the Department of Environment Health who are out there early mornings while we sleep, taking care of our waste. So big kudos to them as well for all the hard work that they're doing.
Yes. Yeah. Now the pressure's on for Mr. Richard to do something special for the anniversary. Now he's like, oh man, everybody knows.
Yes, and happy anniversary to my wife. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sims. Have a good day.
Yes.
All right, my dear.
Thank you. God bless. Take care.
I'm Heather Bodden, MP for Savannah and a lifelong advocate for the environment. Illegal dumping is a crime, so please take civic pride in our home and put litter where it belongs. If you see someone littering, report it to the Department of Environmental Health on 949-6696.
Be a part of the solution, not the pollution. Littering is a crime punishable by a $500 fine or 6 months in prison. Brought to you by the Beautification Task Force and Ministry of Tourism and Ports.
Pasko sa panahon ng tag-init? Oo, eto na naman ang panahon ng Balikbayan Box. Kumuha ng inyong mga kahon sa halagang $75 at punuin ito ng lahat ng iyong mga kalakal na papunta sa Pilipinas. Napakadali lang, kumuha ng inyong kahon, punuin ang inyong kahon at ibalik sa MBI. Ang Miracle Brokers ang bahala sa iba. Ang mga kahon ay darating sa tamang panahon para sa Pasko. Huwag mag-atubiling magmadali. Ang huling araw ay sa September 30. Tumawag sa 949-5989 or 814-244 para sa karagdagang impormasyon.
All right, folks, welcome back. Everybody said, boy, you put Mr. Richard on the spot. His wife, Ingrid, gonna have to get one nice little present tonight. 27 years. There you go. Big numbers there, folks. Once you start getting into the double digits, congratulations to you and happy anniversary to Miss Ingrid. Hopefully you guys have a nice dinner or something planned, or hey, maybe you're just going to stay home and kick up your feet and relax a little bit. Who knows? But yes, 27 years, that's a lifetime, honey Jill. Good luck to you and congratulations. Happy anniversary. All right. So We have a couple recorded segments, including a Cayman Voices segment today that we're definitely going to be playing. And so I want to talk about something. Very few people, and when I say very few, I mean just a few people, have been messaging me, and they've gotten me to start thinking really about something that was discussed on the program earlier in the week regarding the progressives. And so if you are part of our WhatsApp group list, you'll see the question mark this morning for today's title. It says, is there sex trafficking happening in the PPM? And it's a bit tongue in cheek, but it's also a very, very serious question, because let me tell you, my brain been overthinking this, and I want you all to listen to the logic behind this, right? So some of you felt that I may have been unfairly calling out a particular female MP for her relations with at least 4 or 5 members of the progressives over the years. And so I want to clarify this, because as a woman, I'm very cognizant and very aware. And this is why I even made the point the other day, the way in which people speak sometimes to women and the expectations that people have of women and the way that people treat women is very, very different than their male counterparts. So, you know, a man can go out there and have 1 million women. He's sleeping with 10 different women at the same time. Nobody thinks anything about it. Y'all think he's macho. You think that's a great thing. That's wonderful, you know, blah, blah, blah. If a woman does that, we have a very different word for her. And it's not a nice word. We call her all sorts of derogatory words and so on. So I think that there's fairness in the commentary, that, you know, women are definitely judged by a very different standard, and that is unfortunate. That is the world in which we live all over the world. I can't think of a single culture or society where women are not held to a different standard than men. And it is an unfair standard, because men have the ability to go out there and do whatever it is that they feel like doing, and they're just not held to account in the same way. And I think that that's unfortunate. And I don't want people to mistake the comments that were made and why they were being made, and perhaps even how they were being made. Because listen, we're talking about culture. It's so interesting this week that we've been talking a lot about culture. What is Cayman culture? This, that, and the other thing, right? We have to accept that part of our culture has been that Caymanians will get up every Sunday and go to church and are still gambling, which is breaking the law. If you believe in the Bible, that goes against the Bible. We're still drinking, we're still fornicating, we're still having adulterous relationships. And that has also been very much a part of our culture. We can't accept culture and only look at the good parts that we want to look at and ignore the bad parts of our culture. Because at some point, those parts of our culture come to bear on our community. That's why we have teenage girls having, you know, sex before they're anywhere near being ready, because our culture has also included forced raping children. Our culture has also included a culture of molestation of young girls and boys throughout their childhood. That is also a part of our culture, right? We talk about, okay, man has a man shortage. And that explains why one woman has to accept that her husband throughout the course of their relationship is going to have 3, 4, 5 women on the side. Is that really, I mean, that's our culture. I'm telling you, that's our culture. But are we saying that that's really acceptable? Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning, Miss Sandra.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Yeah, this is Ramon. I'm not too good. How are you?
I'm okay, sir. You wanted to comment on this topic?
Oh, not really. There was an issue that I laid out to you from last week about the permit stuff. And,
probably tomorrow during the consumer section. That might be the best time to call. So this time tomorrow morning.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, all right, dear. Thanks. I thought he was going to give us some sauce on what he thought about this aspect of our culture, because it is very much alive in here, right? So let me just, for the sake of clarity, to make it very, very clear, and I had not really gone this deep into the discussion, but take this on board for just a second. We have leaders of this country who should be setting an example of what we hope to esteem to. And that should include, because they use it to their advantage when it's politically expedient to do so. They use their, oh, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to placate the churches. I'm going to try to get people in the church to vote for me because I'm a family man. I'm all about family values. We've even seen people ahead of an election rush and go get married, right? No intentions to marry, but just because they're running for public office, rush and go get married. They already had children out of wedlock. They're already out there fornicating left, right, and center, didn't care. But now that they're going to run for public office, oh, I'm going to go get married. I'm going to, try to prove to people that I have a certain moral compass. And also I'm going to jump and start going to church, right? And then we also accept that those people out there doing the worst and doing the most misbehaving. So as I was listening to some voice notes this morning, I started to think more about this specific situation with the progressives. And saying that it's sex trafficking might be going a bit too far, but think about the implications. Think about this for a second. That you are a woman of a particular age amongst a group of all men. You're the only woman in this group. And they all put you under pressure. Ultimately, a woman has the right to say no. But we don't know the pressure that is being bared or put to bear on this woman from the former premiers of this country, leaders of this country. You know how that must feel? And the other aspect of it that we've not really considered is she as an employee of people in that party. She falls under their control. So it's not really a laughing matter. And I don't want to sit here and call her any disparaging names and put all the blame on her. I think at some point, every woman has got to say enough is enough. But I think we should also be cognizant of the fact that if you were in a workplace and you had all male bosses and the culture of that workplace was that they felt like they could sexually harass you, that they could use you, and you felt the pressure to just give in, well, that's not a good position and that's not fair either, right? If this was any other organization, she would have a lawsuit for sexual harassment. So let's think about it from the perspective that maybe she is a victim and not the villain. I'm not trying to villainize her. But have we thought about this? It's the same situation when people say, oh, well, why somebody going to bring up a lawsuit of, from 20 something years ago? It's because 27 years ago, that person had a lot of power and the victim felt powerless to speak up and to do anything. So if it took them 20 years or 21 years to finally find their voice, who am I to question that? Who are you to question that? I don't know. And you have to also remember the context. Things were a lot different, a lot worse 20-something years ago when it came to women's rights and women's ability, even for sexual harassment, rape, sexual assault, all of these things, to feel like they could actually speak up on these issues. You know what would be the proper thing to do? And I'm going to take it a step further and demonstrate to you why this is a problem. Don't focus on the details of how many people she slept with in the party. Focus on this. Why does the party not have a policy in their constitution, both in writing and in practice, to protect women of the party? No one should be fraternizing at that level in the party. I get it, former premier. You can't keep it in your pants. I understand it from a logical perspective. Go outside of the party. It should never be allowed. It should be against the rules. Your party should stand for more than that. And the fact that it doesn't says more about you all as leaders of this community than most people are willing to admit. Now, think about it in the broader context of how these men obviously think, right? To engage in this kind of behavior and see nothing wrong with it at all. That is why they never speak up about sexual assault in this community. That is why we can't get a sex offenders registry, because of the caliber of people they are and then the behavior that they themselves engage in. Listen carefully now. That is why they have never moved the needle on sexual harassment legislation. It is only finally now under this government, and only because really it's the premier who's pushing it, that we can finally have a glimmer of hope that before they get out, they're going to pass sexual harassment legislation. The year is 2023, folks. Most places around the world have had sexual harassment legislation for a very long time. We are behind the A-ball by a lot. Huh? I think even Jamaica from 2021 has passed the Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act. Where are we? 2023 still talking about it. 2023 still talking about, oh, we're going to have some legislation, some consultation on it. How much consultation do you really need? Everybody else has done it already, practically, except the most backward places in the world. So at least you could look to what they have done. Now they've got a track record of what has it worked, hasn't worked. You know, we've got the benefit of being able to dissect the effectiveness or not of all of these things in their environment. But you see, our leaders don't care. They have demonstrated their lack of concern for protecting women. And this is but one example of how they have used and abused a particular individual. I didn't really think about it this far in my head until someone brought me the conversation and said, well, you know, Sandy, we're making her feel bad. We're making her feel a particular way. And I said, I don't want people to misunderstand what I was saying. And the purpose of me bringing it up in the first place is not to just talk about somebody's personal source, because there's more than that going around in the community. It was to say that she was actually being controlled and used by them in this way, which allows them to exert additional control over her politically. And that's important to recognize. Don't discard that. So that was the initial point that I was trying to make. But as I thought about it more and I mulled it over more, you know, these additional considerations came into my head. They should be ashamed of themselves, to be quite frank and honest. Right? They jumped on the whole thing with McKeeva Bush multiple times happened during their partnership with him, from the casino incident in Seminole, Florida, and Miami, Florida. They said nothing about it. They did nothing. They refused to do anything. When he assaulted a woman, they refused to do anything. Why? Because like he said, and he has called them out before, he said, don't have him open his mouth on the track record of other members of the LA, because he knows a lot of them have done similar things. They just weren't arrested, and there wasn't a video of it. But a lot of them are wife beaters. They abuse their wives. A lot of them talking to underage girls. That's why they don't want that sex offender registry, because they'd probably be on it. You understand? So we need to clean up our act in more ways than one. And it is unfair. I agree with this aspect of it. It's unfair to seemingly put the burden on the woman to be the one who's going to say no all the time after all of this undue pressure. Her very job might depend on her saying yes or no. If she refuses, and somebody said, don't forget the underage boys too. Yes. And we know which MP's involved in that. But her very job might be on the line if she refuses to have relations with these people. Do they not see that? Do they not see from her perspective how they are victimizing her? You know, we have assumed she might be a willing participant. But how willing are you when you have this? This is why sexual harassment legislation is so important. How willing are you when you have people in power over you trying to force their way on you, their sexual desires? It's not always easy to say no to those individuals. Are they going to not allow me to run again with the party? Are they going to remove me? You know, that's her job. That's her livelihood. It's a very, very unfortunate situation, to be quite frank and honest. Really, really unfortunate. Miss Brenda says, I smell some lawsuits coming down the drain here. Peace out. I can assure you, we've talked about it before. And when you know what you're talking about and you know what's truth from what isn't, you can't sue somebody for the truth. We all have our opinions, but the truth is also the truth. Right? No one is speaking things that are not factual. If we could only really speak the truth in this country, I feel like we could move the needle a lot further than it has been in a lot of these social ills. We check out when the truth is being spoken. Oh, no. We can't call them wife beaters. Yeah, okay, because you beat your wife? What else would you like us to call you? Right? When your own brother-in-laws and family members go around talking about how they wanted to find you to wring your neck after you assaulted their own sister, but yet we're going to talk about, oh, well, somebody get sued if they talk about it. That's the Cayman problem right there, and that's the Cayman culture. And that's what keeps us exactly where we are. We're only going to ever advance so much, folks, because we're more concerned about what people are publicly thinking or saying and who's going to get sued for telling the truth. That's Cayman culture. You know, I want to talk about Cayman culture. That's Cayman culture. And that's why children have no protection in this community, why women have little to no protection in this community either. Garrett says Cayman's politicians have always been the kick the can politicians. They do it for everything, including their own retirement. Rusty says, did she say something or did someone find out and drop the story? Listen, this has been happening a long time, Rough Seas. I'm surprised that you guys act like you don't know. This is nothing new. Everybody knows what's been happening for a very long time. And I wish to remind you all that I was a founding member of the Progressive. So there are things that I would have seen and know of as part of firsthand knowledge. That's why I say you can't sue people for the truth, and it is what it is. So it might be news to you, Rough Seas, but it's not news to a lot of other people. So Ms. Brenda's asking for proof. You think the person's going to deny it? You actually think there's going to be a denial so that we have to provide proof? Wow. As many people as know, I'm surprised that people are asking for proof. Really? Y'all want proof? Wow. That's interesting. Cameron says, tell them to buck up and dry their tears. We done moonlighters. We don't need cowards either. Ms. Dawn says no one should be subjected to that kind of behavior. And the fact that, we talk about, we want proof. Yes, I'm sure y'all are sitting back saying, well, this rape victim who's come forward, we want proof too that she was raped. Well, the court of law will have to deal with that because it is a criminal case now. But this is always the case when people come forward and say that this is what they have been subjected to. Well, you prove it. You're the victim. Prove it. Prove that it's happened. Prove that you've been under undue pressure to be in relationships with these people. I can assure you, Ms. Brenda, none of it was hidden. Friends, family members, everybody knows. So it's not like it was a top secret. Maybe some of y'all just don't know, but hey, it is what it is. Rough Seas, that says that's news to them. Well, wow. It's news to me that it's news to you, but okay. Let's move on. So Cameron says, are we going to call out one of Kenny's billboards? I don't know what to say about it, but anyway, yeah, Rough Seas, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I still think you're mistaken. You're saying, they're all adults. Adults can be subjected to undue pressure. Adults can be subjected to sexual harassment in the workplace. That's why sexual harassment legislation is so important. Adults can be subjected to rape. Just because someone is an adult does not mean that they don't need any protections or that they are not themselves victims. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra.
How are you?
I'm good. I just want to catch on this thing about culture.
Yes.
Yes, I think you kind of got it mixed up because I don't think the choices of a few people dictates what a culture is, you know? It's bigger than that. No, it's bigger than that, Sandy. Okay.
But is it really
Culture
a few people? Is it really a few people?
No. Well, few compared to everybody else. But we import a lot of that kind of behavior also. But what I want to say, I believe Cayman deserves better than that when it talks about culture. Our culture is turtling and seafaring and stuff like that, you know? Being because by what you're saying, if that's our culture, is like Sodom and Gomorrah, you know?
Well, what I'm saying is we need to be honest.
Yes, but we have things going on here that is under the rug. I can surely attest and agree with that, but that doesn't mean it's our culture.
But what defines culture? What makes it? How do you define something as culture?
Culture is enshrined. Okay, culture is from the beginning enshrined in history. Is what built Cayman. I'm sure that sleeping around and
that didn't build Cayman.
Being a vagabond and stuff didn't build Cayman. The seafarers and the people of turtling, touch roping, our dance, our foods. That's our culture. That's culture.
Yeah, but the bad things are part of your culture too.
Okay, yes, we have bad parts, but that's not culture. That's just bad part. Okay, it's like getting okay. Our culture is in paper, right? It's all written what our culture is supposed to be. Okay, it's like you buy a TV and you get an instruction. And if you don't read the instruction properly, you're not going to operate that TV in the way it's supposed to be operated. It's just like the Bible.
So
the Bible
you're saying that culture can only be good things?
No. Don't twist my words. I'm not telling you.
No, I'm asking.
We have things in our way of life that is not right. But a lot of stuff that you call culture, that is not culture.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? And if you ask anybody and you know within yourself, that's not culture.
No, I actually believe that is our culture.
Our seafaring, our turtling, our way of life back then, that's our culture. That's what we celebrate at our heritage days, at our Pirates Weeks, at different events when it comes to heritage.
Speaking of Pirates Week, you say that
I don't believe in that.
Well, you just admitted that that's part of our culture.
But
pirating.
No, I didn't admit it, but we have that enshrined in our culture that we use to make money. It's commercial. Okay, can I practice pirates in the Cayman Islands? Never gonna happen unless I'm going to jail. Any part of, if you go in a dictionary, look at what a pirate is. You cannot practice that. But yet, for the last 40-umpteen years, we've been celebrating it. But it's called really Heritage Day.
Well, somebody said heritage is not culture. So this is very interesting.
But at the Heritage Days, they don't practice piracy either, do they? Unless they would all be arrested. There's nobody raping, looting, and shooting at the Heritage Days. It's just called Pirates Week. And they're trying to stay off of the seafaring times about Blackbeard, the pirate, and all those kind of people. Morgan and Derek Morgan and all those people. But we don't practice that here, Sandra. But you know better than that. We don't. We can't. There are laws against this. So when I say Pirates Week, it's just talking about a theme, Heritage Day. I don't go to the Pirates Week because I'm not a pirate. When I grew up and I learned what it's all about, I don't participate in that. I didn't even buy food out there no more. Because they need to change the name. Because I can't celebrate what I can't practice. It doesn't make sense. That's we call an oxymoron. Doesn't work. But I'm just calling to say what you're saying about heritage. That's not what heritage. That's not my heritage. I don't think the Cayman people appreciate that either. You know. But nobody's calling it like it is. And this is the cold hard truth. So I'm not saying it as I see it.
Okay.
I'm a proud Caymanian, and I don't think that's what my heritage is. Or that's my generational heritage that we come from. No.
All right.
There are things here that's not right, but that's not heritage. All right,
I appreciate it. Thanks very much. So, I mean, this is a very, very interesting question. What is culture, and what is more specifically our culture. So, you don't have to celebrate any of those things, but if they're part of, here's one definition of culture. Culture is how a society lives. Culture includes education, laws, celebrations, food, religion, habits, and customs. So I'm talking about our habitual behavior. Someone says heritage is not culture. Heritage is history. Culture is now. Another person says amen to that, caller, not celebrating Pirates Week. And yet a lot of Caymanians will tell you that Pirates Week is part of our culture. So what is culture? Here's another definition: art, drama, dance, attitudes, beliefs, language, customs, rituals, behavior. So when I'm talking about behavior and the customs that we have, faith, religion, food, that all encompasses culture. Crime, that's part of the culture. Remember how we had some guests on not that long ago who were talking about in one of our Caribbean segments that the culture of the country changes, and so does the crime. And the culture changes when certain people become part of the community. So we were talking about Turks and Caicos and the Haitian communities and subculture that comes in. It becomes part of the broader culture, and it has an impact on everything. Has an impact on the food. It has an impact on the crime rate, on the social morals, what's acceptable. I'm not saying that every single Caymanian who's out there is involved in extramarital affairs, is, fornicating and doing all this kind of stuff, because religion and going to church and believing in God has been part of our culture as well. So social behaviors, but we also have to be honest. Some of our seafaring fathers who we say built this country, and we respect them for that, were some of the most unscrupulous men, having children all over the place, and y'all don't know it until you go and get on 23andMe and Ancestry.com. All of a sudden, you're finding siblings all over the world, and you're trying to figure out, oh, but Papa never told me that he had no child all the way in New York or in Europe. He never told you, but that doesn't mean that that's not the reality of the situation. And I often think it's the pot calling the kettle black, and very, very duplicitous when our elderly community now, because they all become Christians in their old age, forget what they were doing as youngsters and want to talk about, oh, this new generation, they're not no good. The Lord soon come and take all honor because y'all up to no good. But where do you think they got that from? From many, 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 many generations. We've had people that you could categorize at some point in their life that was no good. And some of y'all don't even know who your father is, because your father is actually your uncle at the same time. That has been the reality of Cayman. So we can't dismiss it. How much of it we're willing to really talk about, I mean, it's up to y'all. But I'm saying that is also part of our culture and heritage. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Interesting topic.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
really think the general heading, safe heading culture is behavioral pattern. So we can really adapt or gravitate to good behavior or bad behavior. My question is this thing about pirate celebration. It amazes me that countries, for instance, even Jamaica and other countries that really had experiences with pirates, they do not exonerate them. Why do we choose? We didn't really have an outright, like they say, Portugal was judged because of piracy. It was known as the wickedest city or part in the Caribbean. They do not exonerate this thing because there's nothing good that is connected to piracy. And I say, I think it was Makiba Bush, if I'm not mistaken, had expressed to change the piracy, put a different name to it. So that's just my question. Why do we exonerate what it represents?
You know what? I think what it is, and I mean, obviously people who've worked with Pirates Week and who've done this for a long time can tell me, but we started out this idea of pirates. And I think, again, we are placating to visitors who come here. And they like the idea of, oh, pirates come in. It's like Gasparilla, and we have the same thing in Tampa. It's like a Gasparilla celebration. They come in and they take the coming off the water and the booms and whatever with their swords. And so it's a production. It's a whole romanticizing of piracy. And if we understand what piracy is, it's like us trying to romanticize slavery. Nobody in their right mind would actually do that. But we have done that, and we have unfortunately built a tourist attraction product out of that for some 40 odd years. So now, because the money is there, and Pirates Week is this big festival that people look forward to every year, like, oh yes, we're bringing in, international pirates, professional pirates, people who dress the part. I think that unfortunately, it is difficult to undo an event like that. Now, it's not impossible. People have become much more aware, right, of the implications of the things that we choose to celebrate. So maybe we need to have a national awakening where we say, we are going to move away from this. We're not going to support this idea of piracy anymore.
Right.
But I think it's going to be difficult to make the argument from all of the people who have a vested interest in it, from the Department of Tourism, the Ministry of Culture, because they're the ones who it now falls under, the Ministry of Culture and Sports and whatever. They see it, unfortunately, as a cultural event.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't look into the other ramifications that are attached to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Like you hand the key of the city to the chief pirate. A key represents the dominion of a city, a country. You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize, it's like you don't see germs with your naked eyes, but you see the effect of it. It's like you are invoking the things that would be attached to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody sees when COVID walked through the door in the house, but you see the effect of it.
Yes, very true.
So it's just looking at things. Like I said, we have to be mindful of things. They do affect us.
Yes. I mean, we could change it to whole Heritage Week instead of Pirates Week.
Yes.
There are things that we could do, but no one's motivated to do it. I mean,
and I mean, really, when you think of it, you import people to come down and they're growling or roaring like lions and what for what? And there's nothing good connected to piracy. Absolutely nothing. You can find some other way, another beneficial way of culture then.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, caller. I appreciate it. Thank you. So Shaka Zulu says the name Pirates Week only acknowledges times of past, not necessarily becoming a pirate. But you would still have people, Shaka Zulu, that are going to argue, as the caller did, why are we celebrating that part of our history as though it is something to be proud of? If we did have a whole lot of piracy here, which there's no real indications that we did, because there were no inhabitants in Cayman, the pirates might stop for a little bit, but they didn't find the conditions here all that amazing that they wanted to stay at the time. Damien says culture is also to do with survival. YouTuber says we hate to admit the dark part of our truth, and goes on to say seafarers and sexual deviants became because he was the breadwinner and women couldn't say no. They created a culture that we now have to pay for. Mental health on the rise for trauma of generations ago. Cameron says, I don't celebrate pirates because I'm not a pirate. Same way I feel about Gimme Story and Duppy. Aliano says culture, traditional activities passed down through time. The culture we see today is a byproduct of flawed economic struggles and constant corruption and strain on our mental institutions. Marshall says, caller, back then life wasn't good either. A lot of bad things went on back in the day. That caller's a joker. I think speaking about the male caller, not the female caller, but everybody has an opinion. Culture is social behavior. Because you don't like what history has dictated doesn't change the facts. And that's my thing. I mean, I'm not saying that it's right and we're celebrating it anyway, but we have to at least acknowledge it because it is the truth. Miss Sonia says, blessed day, Sandy. May God continue to give you the strength and wisdom to keep this show going. Well needed. Aliano says, call it out, hypocrisy in its name. Denver says, just a few days ago, A friend told me that he had brothers and sisters in the UK, and I never knew that. They probably never knew that either. Thank God for DNA and paternity test. And listen, no Caymanian family. I don't care how wealthy, how Caymanian whitewashed or whatever. No Caymanian family pretty much was spared from the culture of men feeling like they could have multiple women and engage in whatever activities they wanted to, both inside and outside of their homes. You go down the lines, every famous name on this island. Oh, that person had to go to the funeral home and pluck out a hair and do a DNA test because when the old man finally died, they wanted a piece of their inheritance. Huh? Not that long ago, the law in this country was changed to include acknowledging illegitimate children, because the norm and the culture of it was you had all these illegitimate children, and when you finally decided to settle down, or your wife, whatever, only your wife and the proper children were even entitled to your inheritance. In modern days, we had to change that legislation to acknowledge that Cayman has illegitimate children because there's so many of them out there. And so now I think the legal position is if the father acknowledged them in any way, shape, or form during their lifetime, they are entitled to part of his inheritance or whatever he's going to leave behind as their inheritance, I should say. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, morning, Sunday.
Morning.
I wonder if people listen to their elders and stuff like this, because as far as I know, is that our culture really is remembered by the maritime heritage that we have, and the abolition of slavery. Now, I don't understand why people still believe in the slavery part, that we are still in it if we have abolished it. But I think that people are trapping themselves in their own mind. And I'm saying this because if we are a first world country, anybody that does not like Europe don't like Cayman. And that's just off of my observation, because the same way how people don't like Europe, they don't like America. A lot of people run away from America to go to somewhere else to be on a more stress less level. And Cayman is just not that place right now as we speak, because we're still in slavery. A lot of us are still in slavery because the abolition of slavery has not been completed yet. The 21st century, people are still stuck in the 20th. A lot of them are. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah.
All righty. Thanks very much. Al says culture is the good, the bad, and the ugly. I would embrace what inspires me. I never celebrate Pirates Week. Jackie says culture will also change with generations, ideas, customs, social behavior, norms, values. We may be Christians, but not burning witches. Darlene says that must have just been about being a boost for our tourism, and that's exactly why Pirates Week came about. Sonia says, blessed day, Sandy. Oh, sorry, I think we read that one already. My apologies. Uncle Daddy, what? Yes, Cayman detailing. That's the truth. Siobhan says, yep, hypocrites doing the biggest sin when they weren't saved, but as soon as they're saved, they forget all about what they did while in sin and point fingers with the holier than thou attitude when they not know better. Make me sick. Shame and scandal in the family, says Debbie, and every single family in Cayman pretty much had it. Barbara G says, I finally got to hand it to you, Sandy. Have them face the facts. What a mess. Shaka Zulu says, think of how Mexico celebrates Day of the Dead. It's simply part of the past and not necessarily promoting death. So people would, Rough Seas said, so would people that don't live in Mexico look at their culture as strange? Because in the Mexican culture, at the age of 15, the girls are considered grown women and the whole family is there to celebrate it. I think it's 16 actually. Is it quinceañera or whatever they call it? So it's like 16. Would you consider their whole something entire culture sick? Salvin says, why are they targeting Barbara and Julie in a negative way? Well, nobody was talking about Julie, so I don't know. In negative light, but Heather, Sabrina, and Wilkes are untouched. Well, Salvin, that's certainly not true. Not true at all. We have talked about Catherine Wilkes on more than one occasion on this program. We've held Sabrina to account. In fact, when Sabrina was held to account when she got in, her episodes and her show have had some of the most views that this show, I mean, over 2,400 people that this platform has ever had. So she was more than held to account. Miss Heather, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never really had much to say about Miss Heather because she kind of is one of those people that's just under radar. I mean, she doesn't really do much of anything that one would even consider scandalous. Now, I mean, you know, I think everybody knows that she's been in a relationship with a man that most of us would be like, ugh. But you know, I think you're missing the point, right? No one is it quinceañera, so it is 15. Thank you. I thought it was 16. Oh, so it is 15. Okay. They won't even give you that little extra year. So yeah, I mean, it's not about people remaining untouched. I think with the exception of Heather, everybody else has been talked about. And we try to focus on their jobs and what they have done. However, you will remember that when we were talking about the fact that no woman in the Legislative Assembly, not this current group, but previously, when Mr. Bush was into his into that case, whatever, we called out every single woman in the Legislative Assembly, and I went through them by names. I can't remember who all was there now. Have we lost anybody? And asked all of them, why were they as women not speaking about abuse against women? So I don't think that anyone has really been spared. Now, you get highlighted more. Let me put it this way. The points that we're talking about this past week about corruption and how these parties work and how these groupings work, right? The conversation that is relevant to that is how a woman who is part of this group is being used in different ways by those individuals. And some may even go as far as saying having this undue pressure exerted on her for the political expediency and will of the PPM. Show me which other woman that we know about, and this comes down to the facts of a situation, that same example could be utilized. The problem is I can't call them out about this if it's not happening with them. It's pretty straightforward, right? It's not, listen, if Heather Bodden, heaven forbid, was known to be in any sort of relationship with people in her group, she would be called out in the very same way. Forget about who the person is and focus on the action, the behavior that is problematic. Miss Darlene McKenzie having a laugh. I don't know what she's laughing about there. That was an earlier comment. Amanda says, Alejandro, you lost me. Live says that we should have a Seafarers Festival. That's not a bad idea. Aliana says, oh, you bet if the xenomorph got a big booty and a make it in what on earth are you guys talking about? Okay, so it's 15 years old. So it's the quinceañera. Kin is 15. What a hot mess. I belongs to two of my mama and I belongs to my mama and my daddy, says Miss Darlene. Okay. All right, so listen. You guys, Blair says we can all be mindful, yes, but some things don't have to change. If you have a problem, keep scrolling, as they say. Fair enough. People are free to celebrate what they want. If pirates bring you back to good childhood times, then you celebrate that with a little R and be happy. I mean, like I said, it's now an ingrained festival. So I think, like it or not, it's been around for 40 something years. So there are a lot of people, as Blair says, that will have fond memories of it. They've spent their entire lives growing up, going to Pirates Week celebrations. You see the old time photos of that. And so it is something newer that has become part of our culture. Marjorie says, Sandy, it's important that we differentiate between culture and heritage because culture is ever changing. And those that want to get rid of our heritage will use the story of ever-changing culture to get rid of the Caymanian heritage. This is a very good point. Thank you, Miss Marjorie. To erase our heritage is to get rid of what is truly Caymanian. I love that. I love that. Yes. Point taken and accepted. And there is a difference, in fact, between your heritage and your culture. They're intertwined in a way, but yes. Cameron says, just because we don't hear it from Sandy doesn't mean that the bushes along the mall road don't speak. Sandy, good morning, says, know what's sad? Report these disgusting supervisors and team leaders who use their positions to be pushing their private parts and touching women in the workplace. And the companies do nothing about it, just to hold a contract. Instead, the women get treated like they are in the wrong. Once again, we need that sexual harassment legislation, and we need it to have some real teeth. And we need a cultural change. We're rubbing up against women and touching women in a sexual way in the workplace is not something that would ever be acceptable. A couple years ago, the Compass, there's a lady there. She since left. She was, I think, the publisher at the Compass, Miss, I can't remember her name now. But anyway, they did a whole series on sexual harassment. And let me tell y'all what brought her to that point. Y'all are going to be shocked when I tell you this. The reason why she did that is because an individual who was running for public office, who did not get in, so you do the math, they decided that they were advertising for a talk show host to join Woody, I think at the time. No, it wouldn't have been Woody because he was gone by the time the Compass took it over. But to join, I guess, oh gosh, what's her name again? Oh, Barry, right? So they were basically looking for a co-host. And so the person went in to be interviewed, and they actually did something that so offended the publisher at the Compass, she actually reported to the police. Okay? There was a conversation. I can tell y'all how the story goes. There was a conversation. Imagine going for a job interview. I want y'all to take this in for a second. This is, again, part of our culture. Because no person in their right mind should be doing this sort of thing. But you go in for a job interview. You sit down and you're talking to someone that you don't even know. First time you're meeting this person. And in the course of that conversation, you decide to start talking about your man parts and how well endowed you are. This was not an interview for an X-rated video shoot. This was an interview for a co-hosting position over at Rooster for their talk show. Why would this political candidate fathom and think that that was somehow an appropriate thing to do? This poor American woman who is used to having protections and law against sexual harassment and all this kind of stuff, my dear, she was so shocked and flabbergasted by that experience that she immediately went to the police, filed a police report, because in her mind, this is something that had elevated to a criminal act. Unfortunately, the police didn't think so. They're like, oh, this would be sexual harassment, but oops, no sexual harassment protection in this country, on this little rock, so you're out of luck. And that is why y'all remember they did a whole series of stories on sexual harassment in Cayman, sexual harassment, it's just astonishing. That was the reason for it. Unbelievable. Okay. So, folks, we're going to leave that there. But trust me, Al just made a good point there. He's saying that incest is also part of the Cayman culture. I mean, you mightn't like it, but the facts are the facts. All right. It's time for, speaking of culture, it is time for a Cayman Voices segment. You guys know I love these segments. I get to interview people from all walks of life. This particular one, 81-year-old Mr. Kenneth Hurlston, I had the pleasure of sitting down with him and interviewing him recently. He was no holds barred. In fact, I had to edit this video a little bit more than I usually do because he said a lot. And we don't do these segments to try to, embarrass anyone or try to make anyone look a particular way. So I edited out some of the more sensitive bits of his interview because, these people are still alive, honey child. So it is what it is. But he was so entertaining, so interesting. He doesn't have the energy of an 81-year-old at all. I mean, I just found him to be so amazing. So listen, we have 430 people on the live stream between YouTube and Facebook. I do not want to see a single one of you log on. You're listening on the radio. Y'all want to talk about we don't have Cayman culture. These things are the people who are involved in our heritage, right? Telling us about yesteryear, growing up in Cayman, how it was. Sometimes they say things, it's a little bit rough around the edges, but it is what it is. You have to love where you have come from, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. So sit back, get your apple cider vinegar or whatever your beverage of choice is this morning, get it ready, and enjoy this amazing interview with Mr. Kenneth Hurlston, 81 years old, from the beautiful district of West Bay. Cayman Voices was a dream that I had for several years now. It's about taking the power of storytelling to embrace our own collective history as a people. Through our individual stories, we're able to see the common thread that binds us together as one. One person's personal journey has become our collective culture, heritage, and history. This series will show people from all walks of life sitting down with me as the host and going through their life journey. Sometimes there are unknown elements of their lives, but ultimately we're going to walk away having learned something new with every person that we sit down with. I guess I would explain it as an exploration of our story. I'm naturally curious about people and their lives, so Cayman Voices is exciting and allows me to capture this for everyone to enjoy. We are seeking out Caymanians, multi-generational, as well as some who have moved here to, uproot their entire lives and to make this their home. This dream would not be possible without some sponsorship, and so I'd like to thank the DART organization for stepping up to the plate to ensure that we're able to deliver regular monthly content for our viewers to enjoy. So sit back, kick up your feet, turn up the radio, relax, and listen to Cayman Voices. So this edition of Cayman Voices brings me to the beautiful district of West Bay. We have Mr. Kenneth Hurlston here with us, and he's going to tell us about life back in the day when he was a young boy growing up. So tell us a little bit, Caymanians can ask who you for. That always has to be the first question. Who your mama was?
All right, I was born here in West Bay.
Yes.
My mother's name was Iwe or Selena Ebanks.
Okay.
But my father is his name was Cleophas Ebanks. They call him Captain Tom. That's
Okay.
Dalmeen Ebanks' father. Dalmeen, me and Dalmeen are half brothers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yes.
his father and my father, different mother, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I started out at over there where we was living in the little house out there on by Hennings Lane, it's called now.
Mm-hmm.
There was no road, there was just a track road those days.
Right.
And I used to started going to school, Miss Izzy School.
Mhm.
Miss Izzy School was right down on the back off Powell Smith Drive. And we could walk, I could stay home till I hear the bell ringing. And I remember Mama telling me, say, don't go, because them children will pick at you. Wait till you hear the bell and then you go straight to school.
Okay.
My mother used to tell me that and I used to do that. And,
yeah. Were you an only child then for your mother? Or?
Only child at that time, yes.
Okay.
My other brother, which is Eugene, her son, he's 7 years younger than me. So I was just like 4 or 5 them days when I was going to school there. And I went to Mrs.'s school until I was like 6. And I left from there then and I went to the town hall school. I think Mrs. A had second primer on ABC. And town hall had, those days had junior A and junior B.
Okay.
Which was the same thing, but you know.
Yes.
Anyway, I went from one to the next and I was there in junior A, junior B. There for a year. And in those days, it was only 6 years you go to school. They only had 6 books. It wasn't like how it is now. You had 6 books. So you start at 7, and when you were 14, you were supposed to be in 6th book. Then you could, then they had some kind of classes after that, you know, that you could take, but it wasn't like no more school. That was it.
That was it?
That was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were expected to grow up pretty quickly in those days?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you had to get your things together in those days.
Yeah. Okay.
And I stayed there, but 1 year I got out of the primary school, a small school, quick, went over to the town hall, which is the library in West Bay there now. That used to school 6 classes. And we had Miss Alal Smith was the head teacher. Miss Genevieve, Miss Iris, Miss Hope, all of them was teachers in the other classes. And I stayed there and worked my way up until I got up to 5th book. When I was 5th book though, I was 14 because 1 year I didn't really go to school that much at all. Me and Louis was fishing all year.
Okay.
And I didn't get it in my book, me and Louis Hyde.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Aye.
Me and him grew up together like that. So
yeah.
Was fishing all year, so I didn't get it in my book. And and I stayed in at 14, I was in 5th book. So that time, I started to see too hard. I couldn't go home from school. I had to go look for my mother. And she was in somebody's ground, crawling on the ground and pulling bush, you know. We had the ground trying to get a shilling, or it was pound, shilling, and pence those days.
Right.
And I'm trying to get a shilling or a couple of sixpence or something to send me to school. So I said, well, you know what, I got to stop and help my mother because I didn't have no father. My father would never really done anything for us.
Yes.
When I got to that age, he wanted me to come and stay with him, leave my mother, but he wasn't about to help my mother. I told him I couldn't do that.
Yes.
And through that, he didn't really give me nothing. And he had all kind of land. He got rid of that. I didn't get 1 square inch or nothing anyway. I was worried about that part. I stayed with my mother. And
yeah.
I quit school, like I said, 14, then to go to work to try to do something. You know, it wasn't much work, but to pick on something, do something to help her. And I started, well, in those days, Cayman was bad with the prejudice business and stuff like that. Cayman Black all too was bad. And I would be riding bicycle for some of the white people because I was the only little colored guy in West Bay then.
Oh, yeah?
But I was respected and I had manners to everybody, you know what I mean? I always said, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, this and that. Everybody was glad for me for that. And the white people then would give me a job to carry out the invitations for the dances and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they would give me like 4 or 5 sheets of paper and I had to ride around from one house to the next and get the people to sign it, and they would be having a dance in the town hall, which is the library now.
Okay, so you were a little delivery?
Yes.
Yes, wow.
And they used to pay me a couple of shillings for that, you know, this and that, so all that helped.
Yes.
And then I after that I started to, what did I do? After that I started to walk on the road. When they started to build a road through the island. From town hall over here they started, and going through West Bay, went all the way up to the north side. And I worked with them about 9 months. When I stopped working with them, I was up by the big bend just before the barn in the north side, a big bend just before you get to the barn there. And anyway, I was working there with Floyd Bush and Bush.
Tell us a little bit about that, because, you know, my generation, we don't know anything about Cayman, not even having any roads. What was involved in actually putting that road through? That must have been interesting.
Okay. We had a company by the name of Lima. They also did the airport. I worked on that too.
Okay.
But their office, their main place was right where Ben Ross, where that shop is by Ben Ross house down the corner. After you cross that Stryton place, that corner, that store right there, we got a closing thing.
Okay.
That was the office for Lima Construction. And they had all their trucks and all their stuff there like that, and they had the Barber Greens and everything, you know, for the roads and for everything. And we started in West Bay, and I was working on the truck that used to grease the equipment. I was working with Floyd Bush. And we used to grease all the trucks and grease all the bulldozers and things like that. That was our job, keeping everything in oil and grease.
Right.
And I worked with him until I got up to the north side. At that time I was like 17 or so, a little more. But like, when we get back to the roads, in those days, you know, there was nothing was track roads. It was sand and mud and potholes and all like that. And they built the road right straight all the way up to there. They made that road right straight through Georgetown, right straight up.
And where was this company from? They came in from...
They're from the States.
They're from the States,
Yeah,
okay.
Lima Construction. Yeah,
Okay.
and we built that road right up through there, and I left, when I left them, then I went and took my passport out. I got my passport and police record and stuff like that. And I remember that was when I was like about 17, because I got the call after that to go on a ship with a company named Young. The ship came into Cayman, and we all went up to spots. I remember my mother getting Captain Ali to carry us up there, because I had to go up there and join it. And we went up to spots and joined the ship. I think it was on a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, that was after when they came here. I joined. It must have been in October. I think around about October, when I was like 18 at that time. And I went and I was out like about 4 months. I was out 5 months or so. I came home, I think, in February. And because they was scrapping the ship, so they was taking it off the route and runs. I went around to the Panama Canal and up the West Coast and that, and came back through the canal and went back up again. And when it was going back, they was going to scrap it. So it was going up the West Coast, and they took us off in Panama and sent us home. All of us, because they say what they're going to do was carry it to Japan with a skeleton crew, which means less people as you could go with.
Yeah.
So they didn't have that many to fly back.
Right. So they flew you from Panama to Cayman back in those days?
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
wow.
we had to go to Miami.
You had to go through Miami.
Yeah, catch BWA.
Okay.
There were BWA, Laxa, and all like that. So we had to catch BWA and come back here then.
All right. What airline is that stand for now?
BWA, British West Indies Airlines.
Okay.
BWA, yeah. And then Laxa,
Now tell me
Laxa
something.
was out of Costa Rica.
A 17-year-old getting on the ship, what was that experience like?
Oh, well, it was, you know, I was on water all my life, though,
Yeah.
you know, fishing and stuff like that. But when I was 9, 10 years old, I used to fish all the time with a man named Mr. Isaac. He used to come look for me 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we go fishing with him. And I tell you, Joe, one of the biggest surprises to me, I used to go out fishing with him, and we used to go all about up to Haiti Bay. Those days, there was no lights.
Oh, boy.
No lights.
Yeah.
How we knew where we was by the rises in the land. We could watch the rises in the land.
Okay.
And that's how we knew where to stop to fish.
Wow.
One light was hanging up those days, and that was right where Ira Thompson had his little shop. I think it must be where the, what Ira Thompson place named there now, right on the waterfront, where his daughters had there. It's upstairs now and thing, but in those days were grape trees and thing there. And he had his little shop, Thompson, Ira Thompson. And he had a little light hanging up there. And sometime when you stay in West Bay, you could see the little light flash like that. That was the only lights along the whole island.
Wow.
Yeah. And anyway, my surprise one day was fishing with Mr. Isaac all these years, and 9, 10 years old, he'd come look for me sometime, go fishing with him, especially on the weekends, no school. Mom would say, Mr. Isaac, come, and I got up and gone out. Those days, the track roads, walk out, hold your hand there, you couldn't see your hand in front of you. No, because the trees was growing right over the road, you know. Cows on both sides of the fence. Anyway, I didn't know he couldn't swim. And I was all about with him, and I was so small and all in the night and all about. How I know he couldn't swim? One day, for years afterwards, we came back and we had quite a lot of fish, you know, we catch plenty of fish those days, old wives, squabs and grunts, and we were down cleaning it, and he had a kind of bad temper. you get wrecked quick. This one want to fish, and that time fish is 6 pence a pound. And 6 pence a pound, not like it is now, and things like that. And this one want this fish, this one want that one. He said, hold up now. And he cut his finger. So he got vexed. And somebody said, I want this one, that. He said, I want this, that. He took all the fish and threw it in the box and carried them down to the stream, dumped them in the sea.
Oh, gosh.
Everybody had to go up. But after he cleaned up his boat after that, after everybody was gone, he went back in the sea and he was taking his foot and raking his fish up, raking the fish up.
Okay.
And I said to him, Mr. Isaac, why don't dive
and get him?
He said, so now I can't swim.
Oh, my gosh. That was a shock to you?
That was a shock to me because I was all about this, the night, all about all the
But somebody who can't swim?
Yeah, and I was 9, 10, 11 years old.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Well, luckily you never gotten into trouble that you needed him to swim.
No, that's true, And I said, but then I dove it up from then. I dove it up and got the fish, and I said,
Yeah.
But I never forget that. But anyway, talking back about the company, they're young. They sold out the ship because, like I said, was going to scrap it in Japan scrapyard. And I came home, and I was home for a couple of months. And this was when Southwell and them was also here, started. And then in 60, this was 59, that I started really young. I came back home something like January, something like the 1st of 60. Was home for a couple of months. I got a call in with Southwell in. And I went away with Southwell on the, somewhere around about the 2nd or, I don't know, something of May, 1960. And we flew to New York. But in going to New York, we went through Newark, New Jersey. And to put off some of our things in Newark. And when we got to New York, we didn't have no suitcase.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I can't remember this woman's name. We went and stayed by her place. The next day, we went up to the office, and they told us that before we leave, they would have our things up there. They would get the things from New York. Anyway, they didn't get anything, and we left from there. Then the ship had gone up the West Coast. What they done, they took over the Albert G. Brown. They took the Albert G. Brown over because they was bringing out a ship from Japan themselves called the Old Saturn, a new one. And they was going to send the crew up on this Albert G. Brown rather than flying them all up there and all that.
Okay.
Yeah. So they took the Albert G. Brown over, and they sent us then back to the Albert G. Brown to catch her in.
So that was the other ship that you...
That was the ship I got off.
I got off of?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But they took it over because we were going up the West Coast.
Right.
Picking up scrap metal, to go across to Japan, to go across the Pacific. Anyway, they sent us to that. Then I tried to catch it in Vancouver. It had gone from Vancouver and it gone to Seattle, Tacoma. And we caught it in Seattle, Tacoma then. And we left, we left Seattle, Tacoma, I think it was somewhere around the 20, somewhere around it took the 4th or something, it took 26 days going across, so around the 4th of May. And I remember going across the Pacific, it was flat like this, just big rolled seas like. And we were fishing at sharks and all kind of things in the Pacific. I remember the engineer named Captain Colby Jackson. He got a bad cut on his arm with a wire hook and sharks and things, I forget that. And we made it across to Japan because one boiler was up and down expansion, triple expansion. And one boiler would be working and we take parts on that, fix the next one, keep going like that.
Okay.
And we got into the scrapyard in dry dock in Japan, went into Curie. And the scrapyard that we went to, we had to leave the ship there, so we stayed there the night. And on the 1st of June, we went over to the hotels in Curie to wait for the Old Saturn then. And she wasn't finished, and we had to stay in Japan 1 month. We leave there on my birthday, the 30th of June. I never forget that, leave there on the 30th of June. I almost got married in Japan.
Really?
Almost.
Found yourself a little Japanese wife.
I keep wondering now what would have happened if I had stayed in Japan.
I know.
But I
So
could have got married.
what was it like in Japan back then?
Those days?
Yeah.
Oh my God. In Japan those days, you be walking down the street and you got a woman coming down the street with 2, 3 daughters behind her. Hey, you boys sung, one girl sung. Hey, you boys sung, one girl sung.
Yeah. They were looking for husbands.
Yeah. and this bar.
And I'm sure you guys looked good being from the Caribbean. They probably never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
A couple of the guys on the ship that had went with us had been to Curie before bringing out other ships. This was my first time. A couple of us, first time. And we had a restaurant a bar we used to go to called Robin Bar.
Okay.
Everybody hang out there.
Yes.
But then another one that we used to go to called Neptune, I think Neptune Bar or something like this. And they didn't have no food there. So the girls that was there, nice girl thing, you know, we go there and drink thing. And then they would order food for us. But the girl that bring the food was her and her brother came to bring the food. So one day, me and JB and Jewel, somebody was out walking around the place, and I see this girl. I said, oh wait, that's the girl that bring the food over for us out there. So she went into this right, a hole in the wall, a hole. So I went and followed her, and that was her father and mother restaurant. They were the ones who used to cook then for the, and sell it, right?
Okay.
So I said, well, yeah. So I went, I started talking with her, and it was only a couple of days after I was there. You know? I went, I started talking with her, and I asked her if I could take her to the movies because I found out she used to speak a little English.
Okay.
Because she used to go to school in Hiroshima, where the Americans and thing was over there, you know?
Right, from World War II.
Yeah. She used to go to school there. She could speak a bit of English. So she said, yeah, we could go, but her brother would have to go. And I said, okay, nothing wrong with that. So we would go to the movie some night, and the movie would be in English, and the writing in Japanese. Sometimes it would be writing in English and the talking in Japanese, like that, you know. So after about 4 days or 5 days, I mean, I was kind of close, and her parents decided to say they was going to Hiroshima for vacation. And she told me, said she wasn't going with them. Well, they told her she didn't go, they were locking her out of the house. Anyway, I didn't know nothing more about it. This was like a Thursday. On a Saturday evening, I was at Robin Bar, and the Mama Son, we call her Mama Son, and they used to call me Baby Son because I was so small. She comes and she said, Baby Son, phone. So I took the phone, and her name was Mariko, I remember that. So it was Mariko, she was calling me. I asked me where I am. I told her where I was. She said, well, why you don't come where I is? I said, well, I thought you had gone with your mother. She said, no, I wouldn't go. She had left and went to a place. This is how they would turn bad in those days, you know. She left and went to a place we had, must have been about 20 girls or more working girls, you know what I mean? For prostitutes, you call them, right?
Prostitution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she left and she went there and she called me and told me where she was. So me and Albert Brown from Georgetown and Plant and Seymour, they're all dead now.
Yeah.
We went, I said, let's go with maybe I got a place we go sit, the girls sit, plenty of girls, and that's where we go there, nice girls. So we went, and when we got to the place, the front of the place, I looked dilapidated. But when you step in the door, you had to leave your shoes right there. It was an aquarium, but the door was slippers, you couldn't go no further with your shoes. So we got in there, and this lady come, and she must have been about 30, I guess. That was the Mama Son daughter. And she says, yes, sir. So we said, well, we come in the girls. She said, yes, let the girls, come. So we put on the slippers, and we went, sat down in this bed in this room. It must have been about 10 or 12.
At that point then, did you know what you were in for? You knew that this was a madam's house or whatever?
Well, I suspected that, but I was looking out for Mariko.
Right.
You know, and I once said she was there. She told me, I didn't ask no name, but she said that these girls.
Okay.
About 10 or 12 of them sat down in the bed, and we sit down there, looking at them and this and that. But I don't see Mariko, so I say, any more girls? She said, yes, more. So she called them, and they come, and she comes in, Mariko came, so I got up and went to Mariko and sat down with me. And the guy said, well, that's how you do it, we're not staying. I said, that's your business. I know I'm not going nowhere. And I stayed there 1 week there. And the other people that was out to the hotel in Curie with the captain and stuff like that, the captain had his special hotel, and all the rest of them was staying in another hotel. So if you wanted money, you had to go to the captain and get money and stuff like that.
Right.
Because we were going to be there for like a month.
Yeah.
So I was up there then for must have been over a week, me and her there.
Okay.
When we found out her mother had come back, then I brought her back, and her mother went back there and talked, and this, that, was everything was okay. And I was planning to get married. We want to get married. We used to go shopping and all this kind of thing. And I was 19, well, I wasn't quite 19, I was 19 June, the end of the month. She was just 17 or 18, something like that. And anyway, I decided, I said, Ken, you can't get married and stay in Japan. What, you know, that's not for you now, man. So I said, how am I going to get out of this now? So I told her, I said, well, we got about 2 weeks more. So we'll decide and get married. But I know it was only like 2 or 3 days more and she was going to leave. Right?
Yeah.
So when the ship was about to leave the next day, I told her, I said, oh my God, they called and said the ship will leave, so I got to leave tomorrow. That's how I got out of that one.
Yeah, so you couldn't plan no wedding that quick?
No, I couldn't get married in that short of time, so I got out of that. And I used to write, we used to correspond. I went back to Japan different places 2 or 3 times. I didn't ever go back to Cuba, but I went back to a couple of other places since that. But we used to write things, and I said, you know, I got to put this down because I never see her again. But I keep now, up till now, I keep thinking, I said, wonder what would have been like if I'd gone by the state in Japan. You know?
Boy, you never know.
I would have been, I probably had to go work like on a dry dock or something like this and do something. I would have got in probably the language too, you know.
Yeah.
But
you know. But you know what I always say? You're right where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So you were supposed to be in Cayman.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah.
So then after that, then we got out on the ship and came down on the ship and left on my birthday in June. We came down to the Panama Canal. And excuse me, all this time I had one pants, one on the
You
pants.
never did get your suitcase and stuff?
No,
Wow.
one shirt, one pants.
Yeah.
I used to work, I was messman, started messman. I used to work with the messman jacket and my pants. And then I washed my pants and the shirt and I was sleeping in my underpants I got. Came back down to the Morrisville, Trenton, New Jersey there. I went up to the office, called up to the office. No, they not got the suitcases yet. Went back to Venezuela, lowered with iron ore, come back to Philadelphia. Not got them yet. About, I don't know, 2 or 3 trips or something like that. About 4 months when I got my things.
Wow.
But the joke is when I was in Japan and I had no clothes, I had to go buy some pants. But the Japanese is so short, right? And when I bought the pants, it was done short. I stepped over water. I couldn't hold my knees.
Oh my gosh.
That was the funniest thing I had no clothes.
Yeah. You had some adventures then.
Yeah. But anyway, worked out. And we came down. I got my things then and stayed on the ship then over Southern for quite a while. Then I came home and was home for a bit, then go back again. Like I sailed about 8 or 9 different ships. You know.
So when you were out now at sea, you would keep in contact with your mom? You'd write her letters? Or...
Oh, yeah. Those days when I started in, I was only making $90 a month.
Yeah.
And I would send home $50 for my mother. And I would keep 40. But $40 I could go and buy a pair of shoes or a pair of work clothes, a suit of work clothes, and probably go ashore and drink a beer or 2, and come back to the ship and have a little money to gamble with on the ship. $40. Today, $40 can't buy a pair of work clothes.
Trust me, yeah.
That's the difference. I could buy a suit of clothes those days, have drink, and have money to gamble with. $40.
Wow.
I used to send home $50 to my mother.
Yeah.
And that's $90 a month.
Yeah.
We'd get $90 a month. Where that was now? Let's see which way to go. If it was into the States, it was if it was in the States, I only got $90. Out of the States, we got $110 a month.
Oh, okay.
And I worked with him till up there. I stopped sailing in 1970. But by that time, I went from messman to wiper to fireman, fireman to junior engineer. I never did go either. I skipped either and went to junior engineer. And I was sailing junior engineer then on the ships. And the last ship that I was on, the George Champion, the Frisia, I used to sail third engineer on her in Europe. I couldn't sail it in the States because I didn't have the license. So when I got off the last ship really was the Phoenix. I got off the ship, one ship, and I said, well, I was going to come up to New York, and go sit for my license because I need to catch up on refrigeration and electronics. But it was November, December time when Christmas lights was on and party and this and that. So I told him, I said, I'm going to stay up in party, man. I go back out in January and come back in later. And I said, okay, you got to put on this scene. Now you had enough of this. That's how I was, At that time, it was like 10 years.
Yes.
And my lifespan runs around 10 years. I do anything for 10 years.
For 10 years.
I get out of it.
You get out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was married for 10 years. I got out of that.
That's your tolerance level, 10 years.
Yeah, man. I went to sea for 10 years. I had a charter fishing boat for 10 years. That's
You were talking about this lady in, was it New Jersey, New York, that you guys went to?
Brooklyn, New York.
In Brooklyn. Where was she from?
Cayman Brack.
She's from Cayman Brack.
Yeah, but she had this house that she used to take, Mr. Rich, he was a Cayman Bracker,
Yes.
But he used to work
this
in
is,
the Alton Rich and him brother. But he used to work in the office in this National Bulk Carrier, at that time called Southwell office in New York. So that's why he would be hiring people from Cayman all the time. He was the one who looked after people, getting people from Cayman.
Right, yes.
And then they used to stay with this lady, I can't remember her name. But we used to stay there. Then we would take the train, go up to the office, process us, and we come back and stay there till the day that we got to leave. Then we go to wherever we got to go to Europe or wherever we got to go to the West Coast or to catch the ship. The ship we were joining.
Yeah. And the shipping companies seem to have taken pretty good care of you guys. If you wanted certain certifications, they might help you get, different.
I came off the ship with all my discharges and things like that. I don't know where it is now, but I got all my discharges off the ship and stuff like that. I didn't get my third engineer license, because at the end I said, I want to stop the sailing.
Yeah.
And if I had got third, I would want to get second, I want to get first, and I decided to stop. But I'm pretty sure I could have done it. I mean, I was doing the work anyway, but I didn't have the paper. So I decided, that was 1970. And I don't know if I should put this in there, but in 1970, I was on a ship with a chief engineer named Sawyer. And I'd sailed with him before. And the first engineer there was a Greek. And Greeks never liked us West Indians, they never liked us at all. And got guys from Turks and Caicos on there, and this first engineer Greek would be push them on the bottom and push them. And they're big, strapping guys. I said, excuse me, man. I said, oh, look how strong he is, man. I said, I make this man push on the boat like this, man. He didn't like me telling him that. He heard about what I was telling him and all that kind of thing, so he brought it in for me. But you see, I never used to work with him. I was junior engineer, and when I go to work, they work. The chief engineer would call me and ask me to work for him. So I used to do overhead welding for the chief. I used to do this and that. I used to do everything for the chief, And anyway, I don't know what happened, but one night, Powell, when his name, Powell was the pump man. Yeah. Well, anyway, the captain, the Sparks called me and said to me, Ken, come up. So I went up to the Sparks, the radio operator. I went up to him. He had all our passports and things. He said, Ken, they're paying you off the ship when you get into Aruba. Now, this was coming out of non-mobile, this was coming out. Tip end of my tongue. And coming out of the States. And we're going back to Aruba now.
Your major ports a lot of times seems like it was Alabama, Texas was another area that you guys would come out of the
some
States.
people used to go into Texas. I know been into Texas, but Mobile and Alabama, Philadelphia, Trenton, but like that, the West Coast, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But most of the old ships used to go into Philly and New Jersey, Trenton, but I'm there like that. Yeah, but anyway, we was going into Aruba now. And they said it would put me off at Aruba. I said, well, I went up that big and I pleaded with the captain and I cried to him. I said, Cap, I don't want to get off in Aruba. I said, I go get off and I go back to the States, because at that time my first wife had left Cayman and coming up to the States to Mr. Irwin Hayes, them, her family. And I was going to get off in New York when I go back there and get married up there. It might not hurt me so much. And anyway, so he put me off there. I said, well, Cap, I don't want to get off in Aruba. Anyway, I said, well, I told the Spark, I said, if I get off, somebody going with me. I can't somebody with me because I don't want to do this. I found an excuse that I refused work. All the guys on the ship told me, say, can't nobody not refuse no work because there was no work. That's what they found out to tell me. See, they couldn't find out to fire me for it. So anyway, I said, okay, good. Well, I knew it was the first engineer. I went to the chief. I said, Chief, what is it all about? He don't know. I said, you don't know, Chief? And you're the man I work with? I went up to the captain again. Captain said, I don't want to hear that. That's what they said from the engine room. I said, oh my God. Anyway. I said, well, I can't somebody with me. That morning I got up and when I got into the ship, now popped out that night. Next morning I was supposed to go to get the guy at the Seaman Club to find a place to meet there and wait for me for the flight out, coming to Cayman. I went and I got one piece of 16-inch pipe, galvanized pipe, inch and a quarter pipe. I don't know if I should put this in there. But.
Tell us how it was. Well, I mean, listen, you just told us how you experienced prejudice just because you were a Caribbean man.
Yeah.
So
well,
this was life, right?
Yeah, this was life. I didn't dare. And I said, well, I can't somewhere. So I went looking for the first one about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I couldn't find him nowhere. I said, man, he going to show because he know I won't be looking for him. Anyway, he had slept in the cadet room between the chief room and the steward room that he had hide. He wasn't in his room. I went in the first, second, third room. Anyway, I said, I can't find his first, but I know where the chief is. So I went up to the chief room, went through his office, went through the little cupboard thing. He laying on the bed sleeping. I took the piece of pipe and I said, Chief, get up. I mean, I take his foot off the bed. I lick him down across the knee with that. I'm going to break his leg or what? And he looked at me, what are you doing with this? He said, I lick across the side of the head. And then he said something, I lick across the side of the head again. He grabbed the phone. I grabbed the old phone. I licked him across his arm. I popped the old phone off and I lick him again one more time and his eyes rolling in his head. I didn't want to kill him, but I wanted to beat him, make him understand this thing go. I could have killed him. I didn't want to kill him. I left him then. I took the phone, threw it out through the porthole, threw away the pipe, and I picked up my suitcase and I walked off. I got off the ship around about 7:30. Something 8, I went to the Seaman place. The guy told me, said, well, the agent come in a little bit, must wait. So I leave my things there. I went downtown, sat in a bar, have a drink. When I was there for a while, Dobby from West Bay, and one of the guys come there and said, Ken, how you doing? I said, all right, man. He said, boy, they find the chief, But I know they wouldn't find him until after 8 o'clock, because that's when he gonna look, the first gonna be looking for him to find what kind of work he gotta do, right? Anyway, yeah, they say you must have beat him up. I said, me? I saw him. Anyway, I stayed and I said, you know what happened? I better go back down. So I went back down to the C1 place. The guy told me, he said, man, the police come here looking for you, saying that when you come, must make them know. I said, well, where is he? He said, right across the street there. So I just walked over there, got across the street, and they asked me about it. I said, no, I don't know nothing about the man. The man told me to get off the ship, so I got off the ship. This man said, the captain said he saw you down there. The captain had come aboard the ship drunk. I know that was a lie again, because captain said, well, he was drunk. That was what captain said. Captain Thomas, he was named. Anyway, they're going on. So the chief of the detectives there told me, say, this was like a detective place. Because in Aruba in those days, it wasn't a big lockup. Well, the hell Cayman, Jamaica was.
Right.
The lockup here, but it said it really big was Jamaica.
Yeah.
But they'd send you from Aruba to Curacao. That was where the big jail was. So anyway, the chief of the detective told me, he says, look, listen, we don't care nothing about you. We don't care nothing about the chief. We don't care nothing about none of this. We got more than we need to deal with here. But, already come through us now. So you cannot leave the island again under 7 days. So meanwhile, we're going to have to be investigating this and checking this and that. So then I thought about it. I said, you know what? Sure, man. They said that if you tell us what happened, you can't leave under 7 days. And if you don't tell us, you still can't leave under 7 days. So I said, you know what? I told them what happened. When I told them then, I had to write it out. I write it out. They said they don't believe that. All right.
Okay.
I took it and threw it up, threw it away. Then I had to write it out again. I told them I beat the man with a piece of pipe. And I told them what they had done me and all this and that. And what caused it. They took that then and had me there and they sent me, carried me over to the other side of the island to a lock-up place. Like a little lock-up, like how George would have been. And over there I found guys that was locked up for riding without lights or getting in an accident and stuff. So they were playing dominoes and playing cards,
Yeah.
I stayed over there. I had lose about 5-6 pounds on the ship, working so hard in a couple of months. And I put it right back on over there.
Eating good food and locked up.
Yeah. And then when I had about 7 days, they scammed me in front of this judge. And the judge said to me, he said, you want to go home, Sonny? I said, sir, I want to go from Damakime. He said, okay, tomorrow morning the agent will come and get you and carry you home. So that was the end of that. But I heard after that they took him off the ship in the States and fired him because he couldn't give no account of what had took place. Because you see, they had been lying on top of me. There was no refusal. There was no work to refuse. And the thing is, when you're junior engineer, you work till midday, Saturday. And then the rest of the time is yours till Monday morning. So I went up to uptown New York or something, I was there. And we didn't come back until Monday. When I come back, then they want to say that I refused work. But the other guys told me there was no work here. There was no work. It was like, so they only did that, So anyway, I had to beat him for that. I had to beat him. Yeah.
So in those days, you had people lying on your same way in the workplace.
Yeah, my God. Oh, they would do anything, man. Especially them Greeks with us,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
wow. So after that, then you came back home.
Yeah, so after that, then I came home and I said, well, I guess that's the end of it now.
Yeah.
Miss Gwen called me one time after that and said to me if I want to go back out. I said, no, Miss Gwen, I finished. I'm not going back no more. But she called me one time after that, a couple of months after I was here, and said if I want to go back. I said, no, I'm not going back. I'll finish with it. So then I started to work then, hotels and stuff like that. I worked at the villas.
Now, you said you were planning on getting married. Did you get married?
In Japan?
No. You said you were going to go to New York and get married to someone. Who was that now?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You got married to that person?
I got married. She came home.
Okay.
And after she came home then.
So she was from Cayman? She was Caymanian?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was Boise. You might know Boise. Charles Bush. Boise. Her sister name. Her name is Donna Mae.
Okay.
She got a house right up down Willow Franklin Drive by the corner there.
Okay.
But me and her, after 10 years, me and her had to separate because I had got a job with Astro Marine out of Houston. We got married. And we were married together. Going along okay. Had two nice kids, Therese and Kim is my daughters by her. And got a job in Brazil, working with a company out of Houston, Astro Marine. Floyd Bush and Mung and all them, because they didn't know I was engineer. So they asked me to come up and do some work with them. And must bring somebody, so I had Richard Wells up with me too. But then we had to go through Costa Rica and about it like that. Got to Brazil side. So anyway, that's the best job I had in my life. But I had bad luck with one from them. And I keep thinking I should have stayed with that lady in Japan. Maybe that was caused it. I didn't. But
so
anyway.
she didn't want to go to the States with you?
Who?
Your wife?
No, she couldn't go. She had 2 young children.
Okay, so she
stuff like that. But I didn't go to stay. I went to Brazil.
Oh, okay.
To work. I had an 18 months contract. Was supposed to do 9 months there, come home for 1 month and go back and do the other 8. But they were paying me, this is the best job I had in my life. They were paying me $1,100 a month base pay. They were giving me another $1,100 or $1,200 a month for living allowance in Brazil, Cruzeros. The first 2 months I was up there, I sent home $450 US. And the next 2 months, $450. I sent home $900 a month out of the $1,100. The other $200 they took and put it in a checking account for me in Houston. I never had to touch it. I was living off of what they were giving me there. And most of those other guys that was there, they had apartments and things to pay. I was living in a hotel. So if I went and got food, I get a voucher, I carry it back to the office, I get my money back. That was the best job I had in my life. When I left here, the house that she's staying in now, the foundation was there, filled in, ready to do the plumbing. I went up there and I sent home this money, sent $900 a month. Calling, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this, they're doing that, this getting done. Okay, that sounds good. When I got 9 months in, I was going to come home, but my company said to me, you better stay as long as you can because we might lose our contract with Petrobras, which is a part of the Brazilian government. But this company was Astro Marine, they was out of Texas.
Right.
Anyway, I said, okay, so we stayed in and we ended up getting 11 and a half months. I mean, Richard had to come home because the other guys were there, longer guys, so they stayed to clean up. And when I came home, I got to the house we were staying in, and before I went away, we had all the plumbing stuff on the house floor. While those houses up on steps, you know. When I got to the house, I see this all the plumbing stuff still there. I said, well, wait, what happened here? I drove up, went up to where the house is. When I get there, I almost fall down. The whole house grown up with bush, not one block laid, the same thing, just like a while after everything grown up.
So all that money you were sending wasn't building the house?
$1,100 a month for 9 months.
Oh my God.
No, for 11 months. And mine, that was 78, 79.
That was good money.
Big money them days.
Yeah.
She was working Galleon Beach Hotel. I went and looked for her. I said, well, what happened with this situation? Now, what happened? You tell me what you were doing this. I said, well, how come you never done nothing with the house? Don't want to hear that and this thing like that. I said, what about the money? Where the money is? I need the money to build. She's not got no money. I said, you not got no money. Oh my God. Right away I thought about 3 different ways how to get rid of her. Yeah? Honest to God. But I said, okay, let me find out what really going on here. When I come to find out, show along with this guy, Alfonso. You might know a fellow named Alfonso
boy.
Green. He did now, he did. But he was working there at the hotel too. She must have gave him all the money because I had the friend that Alfonso and his wife, Alfonso's wife, and her had big fight up at the airport and all that I heard.
Oh my gosh. So that was scandal them days.
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm peace.
Yeah, man. I found
Good thing Mall Road wasn't around then. She would have been front and center.
Yeah, you had some stuff to put together.
Yeah, trust me.
Man, anyway, I found out all that after that. And I said, well, you know what? It don't make sense I do away with this woman because what I can do with my 2 kids? I said, they're young still. And I said, what I can do with them? I have to lie to them the rest of my life. Right? And I said, no, I don't feel like doing that. I said, Ken, you know something, you're 40 years old, but you can get out of this.
Yeah.
You can start. And I just quit. I went out with my mother, put my things out there. I was taking care of it. At that time, then I started to work at Henry Drew's house in Snug Harbor. And he had a boat, big boat, alongside the dock, yacht. And I went aboard her, and I took everything I needed and put it on her. And I pulled her off in the middle of the canal. And I tied her head off and I spun off, and I ran an extension cord to the house. And I stayed there for 2 weeks, then we'll come back on land. And every time they come down calling, I look through the thing and I see them, I'll lay back down. After 2 weeks, they left me alone. Then I got my divorce through desertion. I got my divorce through desertion.
You just left her alone. That was it.
Yeah, and I got my divorce through that. It didn't cost me nothing. But the house now, piece of land, I wanted to pay her for her share of it, so I could get a bill to something for the kids, because it wasn't the kids' fault.
Yeah.
I know there's never the kids' fault like that, so I get something for them to stay. Said she's not giving me that, she's not making me get it. I said, well, then I'm not giving you mine. I had another piece of land up on Pleasant, you know, that I wanted to build to give her. I said, well, you're not getting mine. So then I said, all right. I left it like it was. When she went to get a mortgage then to build on it, she couldn't get no mortgage. No, that wasn't what I done. I took my share and I put in my 2 children's name that nobody could do anything with it until they was 21 or 25, I don't remember exactly what, years old. So when she went to get a mortgage, she couldn't get no mortgage because the children was too young for the part. I went back to her brother named Deborah, and I put Deborah in charge of the 2 children so that she could get a mortgage to build a house. Because I wanted the children to have somewhere to stay.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, it wasn't a fault to them. So children always been my weakness.
Yeah, yeah.
So done that then, and they I don't know what happened to it after that, but she got it fixed. I think Jimmy Powell, they must have built it or somebody. She got it built up and stuff like that, so I was glad they had somewhere to stay. What they done about it after that with the paperwork and everything, but I had that in black and white that I did that, so. But she put them against me, tell them I was done nothing from and this and that. I put them through school. I put them through school all the best way I could. I never had no big job, but I done all I could do from put them through school until I done from until each one was 14 years old, 18, whatever I had to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Those
I went.
things are
She
tough.
carried me to court one time, and the judge looked at me and says, "Mr. Hulston, you have to pay the money for this." I say, "Yes, sir." I said, "I'm always paying," but I said, "I can only pay when I get, sir." I said, "I'm not going to steal no money to pay nobody." He said, "No, well, I agree with that." I said, "Well, when I get, I give, sir. But I can't give when I not got." And I said, "That's what she expects."
Right.
So, no come out of that. So that was that. But then that was, got out of that situation. Then, then I got on with when I was working at Villas of the Galleon. No. Yeah. Was that before that or after that? No. No, before that I worked at Harbour Heights Hotel. This is after I quit the road.
Where was Harbour Heights Hotel?
Harbour Heights Hotel is right by where the jungle is. Just above the public beach. I worked there for 6.5 years as maintenance too. Maintenance man. I used to make all the water for that hotel. Across the road where the jungle is,
Yes.
it was nothing but swamp on that side, you know. And I had a house over there with a desalination plant.
Oh.
Yeah, and I used to make the water. This is after I come off the ships. This was in the early 70s.
Yeah, yeah.
And I used to work out, this was the early 70s. Because I used to work the hydrator, the derator on the ship too for making the water, you know. And I used to make the water and that pipeline coming across the road over to the cisterns. And they only had one unit at the time when I rented. There was this unit. Then they had this unit on the bottom was halfway up. Asphaltic, I think was building them. And anyway, before I left it, I built up this one, and then I built up the third one in the middle too. But I was over there making water and pumping water across to the hood, so I kept them in the water. I worked there 6.5 years. Wow. Even after I leave there, people used to come ask me, where this line is, where that line is, where the next thing is. But I had know the whole ground, everything, you know. So this was right after I stopped in 1970 from the ship. Yeah. Then and I started working for 6.5 years. But at this time now, when I came back, I went to work Villas of the Galleon. I was working Villas of the Galleon. Just after me and the wife separated. That's where I met my ex-wife, Tamara. She was just 16 years old when I met her. She had just come out of school too. So me and her I was kind of old for her, still a little older. But me and her got together and stuff like that. And we ended up getting married, and that's where
you had two girls with her.
That's where Kenisha and Krista come from.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and her were together 8.5 years before we got married. I said I would never ever get married again after what this woman had done me. But then after that, I said, you know, it's better for the kids. The kids are children are my weakness, you know.
Yeah.
So I said it's better for the kids. They look better than they gotta get married. So when I told her, I said, we're gonna get married, because she had told her mother she was coming to live with me, but I didn't want to get married. But she was still coming to live with me. Anyway, we were going on okay. We was pretty happy, and we used to go to this place. I used to take them to the States all the time, so things like that. And anyway, this about I think 8.5 years we were together before we got married. And we got married, we were married 23 years.
Wow.
And the other day she told me, she said, we're finished.
Okay.
I said, well,
but that one lasted longer than 10.
Yeah,
that one did good.
That one lasted longer.
Yeah, that one did really good.
Yes. But you know, we had our ups and downs, and of course I done wrong, but she done a lot of wrong too.
Yeah.
I never put on this.
But she was so much younger than you. I'm sure that probably played a large part.
Well, it did in a way.
Like to be
like rushing them, like I know they got start rushing, start going in, you know. Then they got to have something else to complain about. But it didn't cause it on themselves, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Russia not got money again, I guess, to help them, because he used to help them too.
Yeah, but the other day Russians destroyed ship was up in Cuba, right up in there. But man, I see now this wife now she gonna leave me, and for a while, I asked, I said, what have I done you? I hear that she's saying that I keep touching her too much, and I ask her about sex too much and this
Lord
and that. And I'm 80 years old. How I can do too much?
You got time to find another one, you know. You can go another 10 years.
But if you do it once every 4 months, you know what I mean? You wake up in the morning and you're saying, well, what happened? It's kind of hard saying nothing in my wife from bed.
Oh, good.
You know what I mean? So, anyway. Me know talking up there today, you know. So I said, well, how can you do us this? How can you do this to us?
Yeah.
So, was really good. I thought this would be an enemy. We're spending time together. And that's what she told me today. She said she got wrong with me because she had 3 bad deals herself. If I think about her deals that she had were really bad.
Yeah.
And then she had kind of said well, she was forgetting about the man business too. So me and her got together and she said the reason because she found me different and stuff like that. And we said, well, we could probably make it to end our lives, you know. And that's that's what I see where I see it. That's how I like it too. But now, I don't know now,
you never know, it might still work out.
Yeah, now we're still talking. She said she still loves me and this knowledge got, but she needs space. But this thing, I don't know what is. I don't know how.
But you know, for Spanish woman telling you she needs space.
It treats me bad, you know.
Might be something else going on. But anyway, we won't get into that.
Yeah, I know. But I tell you the God's truth. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but knowing her, I don't believe it.
Talk about then. You talked a little bit about your career. Now how old are you now?
81 now.
81, wow.
Yeah.
You look very good for 81, I must say.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna
Yeah, I mean, you don't look either one.
Yeah. I had a fishing boat too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I will show you the boat. I had a fishing boat called Deep Sea Fox.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do charter fishing. I did that for 10.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
I did that for 10.5 years too. I was on heavy equipment. Me and my brother had some heavy equipment. But we did that a couple of years and I turned it over to him and I went and got a gas station. A gas station at West Bay. I had that for an option of for a year with an option of 5. But Rayburn Farrington. But he was charging me so much for that Hussein had Alice Station in Georgetown. I don't know if you remember all about that. You might remember that. Where the post office is now, where Cayman Voices is. At a gas station right in that corner there called Alice. It was Alice gas station. And Hussein had started that. Hussein had that whenever he started. He was paying us something like $650 or something like that dollars a month. And he was pumping like something like 60,000 gallons of gas a month. Them times. I had Rayburn gas station over here and he would charge me $1,100 a month. And I wanted pumping like 30,000 gallons of gas. And no space to sell anything else was not much. I remember it was only store he had there in Makata. Had jewelry and that. He told me, well, give it to me. The other place that I had by the gas station was like this. Put a couple of bag of chips and a couple of drinks in the fridge. I had to be there from 5 o'clock in the morning, breaking down them big backhoe tires and all kind of thing to make ends meet.
Yeah.
You know, to try to pay him. I remember taking $3,000 on the account. I went to Miami and buy some things. When I come back, the account couldn't even pay it off. I sold drugs and paid it off. Yeah. And I asked him time and time again, I asked his sons, Charlie, I said, Charlie, talk to your dad. This is too much money charging me. He said, Ken, I can't run but to talk to the old man. I went and talked to Mr. Rayburn. You got to do better than this for me. He looked at me, he said, Ken, I can't live off of less than this. You know? Anyway, I said, all right. He had a heart attack one time. So I said, okay. No, his father had left him all kind of money, you know, all that kind of, with Charlie Farrington. Anyway, when the year was up, I gave it back to him stock the same way. And when I gave him the keys, I said, okay, check your business. And I said, now, you take these keys, and the next heart attack you get, you carry this gas station with you. He color went like that, like that, like that. I said, no, I said, don't do it now. They're going to say, I kill you. Wait till I go away from it. Wait till I go. And you know, I never spoke to him since. And time he tried to talk to me after that. Every time he tried to talk to me, I turned my back and walk away.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't talk to him ever again.
That bad blood then.
I didn't talk to him ever again. He died and I never did speak to him after that.
Oh.
No, I can't stand them kind of people, man. I mean, they're too craving, man. Too you know.
Unfortunately, we got a lot of Caymanians like that.
Yeah, I don't know him, I'm sure. But,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm a person that I get the hatred for them kind of things, you know. Yeah, man. So.
As you look back in your life, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment? You're talking about how much you love your children, so I'm guessing it's probably your 4 girls.
Well, I would have to say my children, yes.
Yes.
I love all of my children. I love all of them dearly. Good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you about all the places that I've been and all the things that I've done because
it's a lot.
To go through all the places that I've been, it would keep you up till night. And I tell you all these things, you know what I mean, about the Persian Gulf, you know, about this kind of thing like I see.
Yeah.
All like up there now, the Persian Gulf now, you can't go there now, you can't go in there. You go in there, you get shot. When we used walking, we used to go there and go off the ship, play skittle, go ashore and all that. Like nobody, all the kind of things was different.
Wow, different times.
Different place. Yeah.
What's been the biggest change in Cayman that you've, in your 81 years that you've seen? And do you think it's good or bad?
It's bad. But if I had 60 years ago, 65 years ago, if somebody had told me that Cayman was going to be like this today, I would have told them, I say, you're mad. You need to go to the madhouse. Nobody could see that. But it's just like nobody could see. I could have been a millionaire too.
Yeah, the whole world has changed in 60 years.
I could have been a millionaire when I was going to sea. I could have sent home enough money to buy half the 7 Mile Beach.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Those days. Because nobody was buying beach land. Everybody wanted to go on the other side of the road because the beach land couldn't grow nothing. Nobody was putting houses there.
You just didn't see it coming.
Nobody saw that coming. That's right, yeah. But the thing is, I think, okay, let me put it this way. The whole island had to move because the world was going more all the time, getting more all the time. So he couldn't keep the island stopped completely. But I think they moved too fast with it. I think they moved it too fast. They should have done it more slow than what they done. I think they moved it too fast. And you see now today there's nothing happening here for Caymanians no more, you know.
Yeah.
It's happening now for foreigners. It's not happening for Caymanians. No matter how you think about it, it's not happening for Caymanians. Caymanians might get enough money to build a little house or something, but the bigger part of the thing that's happening here is for foreigners.
Yeah. I guess the question is, you know, how could we have slowed it down given how fast the world was going? I mean, when you think about things like smartphones and computers, and even in the past 5 years, the things that you can do with technology that 5 years ago you couldn't do.
Yeah.
If you don't keep up, you get left behind.
Well, yes, but we wouldn't have got left behind. They were saying that this is the island that time forgot. But believe you me, we wouldn't have got left behind. We would have been we would have been further ahead right now because people would have respected us more for the way we was. But
I
anyway,
appreciate you so much.
Yeah, like I said, I a lot more than I could sit down and talk to you about, but I got to talk all day. But all the places that I've been, the things that I've seen happen, and the things went through, oh my God, so much. But I'm glad for all the sailing. I'm glad for all the things that I've done, because to me it brought me so much discipline.
Yes.
You know, I saw the way people live this way, the people live that way, all of these things. If I hadn't been sailing, I would have never known or see that. I've been all over the world, round it a couple of times. Hardly in a place you can name right now that I haven't been.
Wow.
You know, be hard for you to name some place that I haven't been. That was a seaport.
Right.
You know, maybe inland, the middle, or somewhere different. But anyway, on the seaports, anyway, you could think. I've been here and there. Been all over.
Yeah. Well.
But
thank you, my dear. We
thank
really
the Lord,
appreciate
I'm
it.
still here. I'm
Yes.
still here. I'm giving the Lord thanks, you know.
Absolutely.
I had a close one the other day.
Okay.
I had a close one. I'll tell you this one. I had a close
Yes.
one the other day. But I believe in the Lord for a long time. I'll tell you this too. I gave up cigarettes 19 months when I was on the ship. I was out 24 months that time. Or 25 months, something. I'd given up cigarettes for 19 months. Because I wanted to put down the cigarettes, because I came to the conclusion that if you smoke grass, you get high. If you drink alcohol, you get drunk. You drink too much water, you get bellyache. You smoke cigarettes all day, you get nothing. And I had enough nothing. So I didn't need no more of that. So I say, well, kid, you wake up in the morning, your breath is bad, give up cigarettes. There's no good to you. It's an artificial thing that people make. So I said, okay. 19 months I gave them up on the ship. Coming home, 1963 November. I flew from Rome, paid off the ship in Rome, Genoa. Went to Rome, got the TWA from Rome to New York. Got in New York, must have been around about 2 o'clock, somewhere around 2, after 12, 2 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay. I met Hal Sabodin. He was up by his sister place in New York, and he was coming home too. Well, those days we had to use BWIA again, Laxa and stuff like that. There was no jets thing, prop planes. So we leave New York on Eastern around like 2 something in the morning. We got to Miami around about 5 o'clock or so, something like that. Well, when we got to Miami Airport Company, different than what it was those days. And when we got there, everybody was moaning and crying. No bar was open, no restaurant was open, everything was locked down. Everybody was moaning and crying, They were having the rehearsal of President Kennedy's burial on television. Yeah, that was November 63.
Oh, yes, okay.
Anyway, Halsey said to me, he said, boy, what a place, Cam, got a drink. And he was done half cut. I remember I had a little bottle of Seagram's VO and one of Gordon's gin in my coat pocket from coming across with the TWA. I said, come, we got one to drink. We went around one column and I took the Seagram VO out and just tasted. Because it's only a drink.
Yeah.
I just tasted and gave it to him. And he drank it. And I reached in his pocket and took out a Slim Jim cigar and started to smoke. After 19 months, giving them up. I come home and I smoke one cigarette today, then tomorrow, then the next day I smoke one again like this. I said, Ken, man, you haven't given up cigarettes yet. You got to give them up. I went home. This is true now. I went home I knelt down by the bed and I prayed to the Lord. I said, Lord, please help me give up cigarettes one more time. I'll never touch them again. I said, you know, Lord, better than I do, that I really want to give up the cigarettes.
Yes.
I said, Lord, you know this. Please help me. Good. That was in November. All Year's Night, see me here, down by the Blue Horizon Club, down by Mr. Hoskins, down by my brother club, Dalmean Club, Blue Horizon was. We was down there, we were eating Austrian grape trees, drinking some beers and things because so many people around the club. It was All Year's Night. About 5 minutes to 12, All Year's Night, something said to me, said, Ken, don't make New Year catch you smoking. I took the Winston, I was smoking Winston, I took the pack out of my pocket and I threw them away. I said, well, you come back to me because I'm not coming back to you. Just like that. I remember playing. And I must have been there for another hour or more. After 1 o'clock anyway, we were leaving and something said to me, Ken, them cigarettes not come back to you, you're not going back to them. I never smoked one since.
Wow.
I couldn't do it on my own, but the Lord helped me done that. I knelt down and prayed. I said, Lord, you know better than me that I want to do it. And he helped me done that. I never smoked one since.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's why I say now, one time I was come home the ship, we were drinking, partying, went to Mike Doan place, little rest bar, had a tear gas gun in my pocket and dropped on the ground. But through a guy named Wallingford was actually at me. I told him, leave me alone, leave me alone. He wouldn't stop. I broke off a Heineken bottle and I rushed for him. And the guys grabbed me and the pen dropped on my pocket, but it was tear gas. I brought it home, you know. And I knew if it hit the floor, it was going to go off. So as it dropped, I bent down to pick it up, but it went off, caught me in the face. Coming up in the bar, right? I staggered out the door, followed in his car hood, and I went out there. When I woke up, I went back to tell Mike, I'm sorry. When I went back, he had the cash register hugged up still. Everybody else had gone.
Oh my gosh.
I water big as my fingernail, dropped out his eyes, but he wouldn't turn that cash register loose. I went to tell him, I was sorry, but I mean, they were good friends.
Yeah.
I said, Mike, he reached under the bar and grabbed a 38. He said, Ken, out the effing place. He put it to my head, bam, bam. Never went off yet. He took and stuck it out the window and bam, out the door and went off. If you think I'm like, you will ask Ronnie or ask Carlton, either one of them can tell you the truth. They couldn't understand it. So Lord,
wasn't your time.
No, had a mission for me. The other day, I was out fishing, not knowing anything wrong with me. I decided, well, I know I had a bad valve in my heart from Dr. Kriegel telling me, but according to her, it was not bad. It didn't need that much operation that I got. Well, I have a pacemaker that I put in Cuba, because I had to put a stint at one time in Cuba. So the other day I woke up and I felt a little dizzy. And I said, I want the manager, I check the doctor. I went to Cayman Bay, they done an ultrasound, they done a cardiologist, all thing there. Set it in the Sherry's. 4 days time, Dr. Benoit called me. I didn't know him before that. He called me, he said, Mr. Hudson, come up. I need to talk to you. Well, I went up there, drove up there, and I was in the living room, in the waiting room. He come out, him and the nurse, and stand in front of me and shake his head. I didn't know. He said, come. When we're going to his office, he said, how you get here? I said, I drive. He said, you drive? I said, yeah. He said, you know, you're not supposed to be walking. He said, right now you shouldn't even be walking. Anyway, got in his office. He said to me, you heard of sudden death? I said, yes, I've heard of it. I've seen it. He said, well, that's right where you are now. He said, you could shut down in a second right now talking to me. Not in a minute. He said, in a second you could just shut out. He said, sit down. I sat down. He said, you got 4 valves in your heart. And he said, your aorta valve is the main valve. That's where the blood coming through for your system. He said, right now the outlet on that valve is about the size of a pinhead. He said, you know what your heart doing right now to push blood through your system? He said, the walls is even getting tight. I said, well, Doc, you're frightening me now. He said, I don't want to frighten you, but I'm telling you, he said, I came out there expecting to find somebody in a wheelchair or with a walking stick.
Wow.
I didn't talk to find somebody like you. God did what he looked at and think, right? I said, well, Doc, you got to do something about this now.
Right.
He said, well, I can't do it right now. I said, well, you tell me I can shut down in a second. What kind of story is it? He said, about 3-4 days time. I said, well, you tell me 3-4 days time I can shut down.
You might be dead.
I said, okay, doc, that's okay. I'll hang in 4 days for you. And on the 4th day, he called me, went up on a Friday and checked me for clots. Was not in cabinet here on Saturday. Was 7 hours operation.
Mm-hmm.
It stopped my heart, took it out, put a wire in it, put it back and started it back.
Wow.
So I get back here for 20 years. And here I am today. That happened on the 16th of December, and he told me I could come home on the 20th, but I came home on the 22nd.
Wow.
They're good. I bring them up on all 2 shows after I came out. Every 5 seconds, somebody's there, you need this, you need this, you want this, you want that, you need this, you want it. Hey, when he told me I could come home on the 20th, I said, no, doc, I need attention, so I can stay. I can't get a good one. And I stayed 2 more days just for that. Yeah, man, they're good. Hey, they're good up there. They know the business.
Wow.
So, Lord gave him another chance again. That's what I'm saying. He have a mission for me. I know he have a mission for me. I can feel that. He haven't told me yet. I don't remember him telling me, but he have a mission for me. He'll give it to me, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. Whether it's to end up being a preacher.
Yeah.
Or what it is. But
I'm sure this story will be a testament to a lot of people. Trust me.
Yeah. It's everything I'm saying here is facts. It's not one word of lie. All facts. But the Lord is there. If you believe in Him, you have to believe in Him. Because He knows whether you believe in Him. He knows better than you, whether you believe in Him or not. You have to believe in Him for it to work. I know that from the cigarettes. I tell you, I promised Him that, and they went for me like I never ever smoked one before.
Wow.
And every time before, if I took a drink, I wanted to smoke. Or if I ate something, I wanted to smoke. This time,
that's it.
Like they never existed.
Wow.
He helped me. He knew I wanted to give it up. That's the thing. He knew I wanted to quit.
Yeah, you had the willpower. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hurlston.
Got a little piece for you. Business.
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure.
Yeah,
I really appreciate you. All right.
I'm glad. Okay.
Thank you very much.